Hey, before this podcast episode starts, I have to immediately apologize because this episode got really screwed up by OBS just randomly switching settings on us. Like, I haven't opened OBS since the last time we've recorded, and all of a sudden, the base level at which it captures the guy's audio, so not mine, your podcast host, Willer, but Joe, Bradley, and Tyler's, that base audio level is way lower than mine for no reason in particular, and even if I max out the little gain thing in the audio mixer of OBS, it's still way lower than mine. So we had to do adjustments once we realized, but about 40 minutes of this episode, we did not realize my little section of the beginning here sounds fine, but theirs sounds so bad that I considered maybe not even adding it to this episode. It absolutely sucks that it took me so long, but we were having internet issues before we started. I was just so happy to be able to get with the gang and talk about stuff that completely just went right into the podcast. We got rolling and rolling, and I didn't notice until the damage was already done there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to get their audio to at least be audible. It's going to sound terrible. It's going to sound so terrible. I am so sorry. I freaking hate when this happens. I'm gonna have to boost their audio. There's gonna be a bunch of humming sounds, humming noises. You'll be able to hear them, but it's not gonna be a pleasant time. It'll be a lot of background interference, and it's gonna be completely off of sync from what I'm saying as far as the audio level goes. On top of that, when I did notice, I could barely fix it because, like I said, OBS has just completely changed how it handles my desktop audio out of nowhere. I think I know how to fix it from this point forward, but it was already hard to get this podcast started. We've been trying for a while, so we just had to fix it as best as we could and go from there. So, the audio levels will be, not great, but the audio quality will be just fine. It'll be the same mediocre quality that this podcast usually has. So if you're okay with that, it won't be too bad. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll boost that audio. I'm probably going to move the beginning section of this podcast to the end of this video because I just don't want someone to click through accidentally at the start and get hit with that, and that's just going to be really off-putting. Again, I'm considered not even adding that chunk, but it is a solid not counting my part, it's going to be a solid 30 minutes of this 3-hour podcast, so that is a sizable chunk. And real quick, I'll just go over what they talked about. So Joe talked about some Total War DLC, X-Men 97, because he finished that, Game Changers, and him and Tyler talk about Suits for a little while. My little section is just a bunch of trash. The least interesting section is the one that came out alright, but that's besides the point. Bradley finished Dungeon Crawler Crawl Book 2, which is pretty cool. His Kingdom Hearts 3 catch-up, he's almost done with all the super bosses. He had a fun little section with Spelunky 2, and then he talked about his bookbinding class he's been going to. And then for Tyler's section, he talks about 2 anime. He talks about Reincarnated as a Slime Season 3 and the Mushoku Tensei for a little bit. That's when I caught on. So the beginning of this video that you're going to hear right after this is us picking up from there, Tyler finishing his Mukusho Tensei thing, and then we'll roll from there. Really only listen to that last bit if you're interested in one of those topics by a large margin, because I promise you it's not worth it unless you're really interested, and I'm just going to be upfront about that. So sorry, thanks. Try not to let it happen again. It happens at least once a year, whatever. Enjoy. Okay, we're back. I started this episode by saying there was technical difficulties, and holy fuck there were. For some reason,
revenge.
The others were low, so the audio for the first 30 or 40 minutes is going to be weirdly balanced, and I caught it eventually, and now we're going to be lower than before. Whatever. Okay, hey Tyler, what's up with that old grandpa that likes... babies.
I'm still on my anime block, so I'm on day 3 of Yoshimedal, on the Inter-High race. It had a nice lull period, but it's back to getting good again. I'm really excited. I've got biking in my YouTube algorithm now, so it's becoming a real thing for me. This is gonna become slowly. All of my quickies are gonna slowly become about biking in the next half year. So be looking forward to it.
Good. The
Like
future.
Konosuba season 3's been going on. Shit is fucking hilarious. If you have not watched it, Joe, absolutely up your alley. You should be viewing.
Ooh.
Let's see. Diablo 4. I played the new season of Diablo 4. They didn't like. So it means I missed 3 other seasons.
There were 3 other seasons?
Yeah. They revamped how like weapons work and loot reloaded, so they added a couple of cool things about like customizing your weapons a little bit better. They let you so like weapons used to drop with like 3 or 4 aspects on them, but now they only drop with 2 or 3, and then you get to add 1 or 2 more, like a grand total of 5. But you get to choose what like instead of it being dropped and randomly choosing like your 4th line from 30 different aspects, you now go to the blacksmith and you're like, I want to choose 1 random aspect from these 5 to be my 4th line. So it's pretty cool.
Do y'all remember how y'all didn't remember about Diablo 4 in Game of the Year last year?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It'll be this year, I guess, because Tyler needs something on that list.
Yeah. You saying I don't play games, dog?
Okay, we have one later that you'll talk about, and then you're gonna play Thousand Year Door this year, right?
Yes, I am actually.
Really? For real?
Yeah.
Sweet.
No, I really want to play it.
Okay, cool.
Oh my god, my brother's been playing Thousand Year Door, and like he grew up playing Super Mario RPG and the first Paper Mario like over and over and over, and he's like, I finally get why people say this is the best Mario RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro's been playing mid his whole life.
I only know of Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door from my Nintendo Power and my brother's orthodontist. So, like, I only got to see it in passing growing up, so it's gonna be really cool to get to sit down and play it.
I know it from my cousin, who could never figure out how to get out of Roguesport, and he was older than me.
That's chapter 1, by the way. So rough.
I want to end my Diablo talk with this just like phrase and like just this little tangent.
Of course.
I played like all weekend, like grinding up a character and everything. I was having a great time running through dungeons again, fighting bosses. Like, I went from 1 to like 50 in like a half day. Like the leveling was super quick.
Yeah.
Eventually got to a point to where I got this 1 drop and I kind of like finished my build out. And I messaged our friend and I was like, I don't know what to do in this game anymore. Like I was so hype on it, and then it just died. Like I shot it in the face.
That's exactly what happened last year. I mean, the year that didn't happen. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I beat Diablo 4 last time. Like I did. I enjoyed the story.
But there's no beating anymore. It's just like new content, and you have to wait now, right?
No, there is no new content. You just play the same old content.
But it's season 3, and there's no new content. It's just
the way Diablo works generally is that it's kind of like almost like Resident Evil, where you try to optimize how quickly you can get through the campaign.
Well,
right?
Okay, wait. There is content now. But it's okay. You remember Nightmare Dungeons?
Yes.
So they added a tower now, and now players will fight to see how high they can climb with their class in the tower with their build. But it's just like doing 100. It's the same thing as doing 100 dungeons in a row. You just clear the dungeon, fight a boss at the end.
Right, and when the combat is not engaging as other games too, in my opinion, like it gets to a point where you're just rotating through your 4 skills. You're like, okay.
Oh, I know, dude. Some classes don't even do that.
Yeah, your 2 skills.
Yeah, pretty
much.
But yeah.
2 whole skills.
So I'm on to another game now, which I'll talk about later.
Cool. All right, I'm not stressed out at all. We're fine. Bradley, you've been catching up on My Hero Academia. How's that? Bradley gets to have his own opinions on My Hero, and I don't like it anymore. I used to be the opinions sender, but
yeah, cause it's funny, you know, I feel like everyone else in the world has seen it, so I don't know anything. Fresh opinions coming in. God damn, I really like it.
Yeah.
We're on the sports festival right now, which like. It's just such a cool way to do like a pseudo tournament arc, but also you can make every round something different than just a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
One
one round's like
time-
rescuing people, right? Is what I remember.
See, there's they start with an obstacle course, and then what was really crazy is they have what they call a cavalry battle, which is like you form teams and everyone's carrying one person on their shoulders. But because Deku got first in the obstacle course. He has a bounty of like 1,000,000 points if someone takes him down.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, so I'm just fucked.
He's like the gold snitch, basically.
Yeah, he was like the golden snitch.
Oh, we can't Harry Potter comments.
Well, this
But yeah.
podcast is all about Harry Potter. We've established this.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, one of y'all asked me if I'd met Eraserhead yet. Got to see my boy shine. Because, you know, all the villains come and attack the school or whatever. And, you know, he can erase people's quirk by looking at them. So there's this just huge horde of like 50 villains, and he erases all their quirks. And they're like, okay, well, if you erase our quirks, you're still just a guy, and there's 50 of us. We're just gonna beat your ass. And he's like, yeah, you want to bet? So that was fucking crazy, but I'm really liking it. I like the idea that Deku has to, like, you know, grow into this power, and he can't just use the strongest ability willy-nilly. So sometimes he's using it cleverly, and sometimes he's not even using it at all.
And sometimes he's just breaking his bones. Fuck
And
him.
also, I thought one thing that just really impressed me with this is you have All Might, which you're showing off the strongest character in your setting right off the bat, right? And these villains show up with a character named Nomu, who is designed to be as strong as All Might. And I'm like, this is really bold to show the peak of what power can be one-on-one this early in the story. And All Might is like, if this guy is as strong as me when I'm at 100%, I'm just gonna have to go above 100%. And he gives like he gave a beatdown that I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, that one is
was
what
so
hooked,
cool.
I think, everyone in early My Hero. Is
Definitely worked on me. So
Yeah.
we're still like halfway in the sports festival, but I will be updating.
The sports festival is definitely like where everyone got into the series, and then there's an arc after that are like the early highlights of. I don't remember a lot of the sports festival, but I remember the Nomu fight. I will say Nomu is not as strong as All Might. I think is how they recontextualize it later. There's way stronger stuff than Nomu, so that's definitely not like the peak of combat.
I think
But
even
he's
the bad
dangerous.
guys are like, we might have underestimated All Might.
He's
or
the guy
something.
that can like take a bunch of blows, right?
No, Nomu's not a guy. It's like a creature.
It's like
they
a
make.
thing. Yeah. It's the thing that like they punch into him, and then All Might's just like, I'm just gonna overload this idiot, and like he fucking explodes.
No, Joe, you're right though. They described him as having like impact reduction or whatever, and All
He
Might's
can
like, it's
absorb
not
the impacts.
All Might's like, it's not impact absorption, it's impact reduction. So I'm just gonna have to hit him hard and fast enough this many
Yeah.
times.
It's not null damage. It's resistance. So I could just.
I'll hit enough ones until he dies.
Exactly.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Cool. We'll see. You're still very early. So-
As a small update, I finished Heaven's Arena the other day.
in Hunter x Hunter? You're watching Hunter x
Yeah.
Hunter?
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh.
The power of Versus Wolves knows no bounds, huh?
it's true.
hey.
I guess I guess it's like the Phantom Troop arc, the arc that's not the
York
the-
New City.
York New City. I'm at the point where Kurapika fought a dude and changed his heart.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
Good old Uvo.
I think what happened was that like there's the episode where the guy explains the 4 like techniques of men and lies about it, and I fell for the lie. I'm like, this shit sounds stupid. I turned it off.
Well, Joe, maybe you
it's-
shouldn't be so judgmental about shit.
True, then finally I kept watching, and I got to the point where they actually break down the tree. I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. Yeah. But enjoying it better now, I would say.
Heaven's Arena, I think, is fantastic. That Gon versus Hisoka fight is, I think, incredible. And then it ends weird like every Hunter x Hunter arc.
Yeah.
But Bradley, do you remember the thing that drove you insane about?
Yes, I was thinking about it right now.
What was it, Bradley?
Later on, Gon. This lady, this lady likes Gon, and they go on a date.
Oh no, that's later. That's way later.
Well, that did drive me crazy.
Paul, I was asking what you hated about Heaven's Arena, because there was a Bradleyism that was very memorable to me.
Whatever it was, it probably got overshadowed by the other thing.
God. Yeah, Palm is a little, Japanese media is a little, we don't talk about
You know how they are.
Oh, shit, man. Anyways, let's not talk about that. What we can't talk about, Bradley, is the scene where they're watching the fight through a television and they can see the Nen aura through the TV.
That's what it was.
And it drove you fucking insane.
That's what drove me crazy, because I'm like, if you can only see this if you're doing like this eye technique, then how can the camera fucking see it?
Joe, can you weigh in now that you've watched it recently? How does the camera see it?
They infused the camera with Nin.
Easy.
Okay.
Easy.
All right.
It's part of their Hatsu techniques.
It's Gyu. They just infuse it with Gyu.
Yeah, it's that easy. Yeah, man, I don't know, because I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, Bradley was right.
I'm not gonna lie, though, at one point, this very past
Bro, they have a fucking video game that's like, you can't enter it unless you have Nen. And they go into the fucking internet with Nen.
No. Joe, you don't know things yet. Anyways, Bradley, you were saying just this month.
Just this month, I was like, you know what? At some point, I feel like I might have to rewatch Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like it might be good on a rewatch.
Now that you're not like the most stingy motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah, I know. I think my tastes have changed enough where I get a bigger enjoyment out of it.
You've softened up over time.
Got laid and got relaxed.
I have softened up over time.
There's other series where also like Bradley used to be so huffy about it. I think JoJo's mellowed you out once you came to realize that.
I still wish we could remember what the fuck it was in part 6.
We'll never know.
That nearly drove Bradley to fucking giving up on that series.
To be fair, though, it is part 6. Like, there's some crazy shit.
No, like, and we talked about this in the past, but like, I was actually thinking, because I was thinking of Hunter x Hunter the other day, and I thought of Bradley's television thing, and then I immediately thought of part 6, just like we're doing now, and then I remember it being them like coming out of like Jolene's jacket or like a prison jacket through the wall.
Oh, that might have been it.
No, but like they weren't burning down the house. Like they were in Emporio's stand, which is like in the walls. And I remember like, how could Bradley be that mad if there was an explanation for it? Like, maybe it was that, but I think it was something else. I don't know. It was either that or Ross, but like, we'll never know.
I think I got used to that kind of stuff from JoJo's, because I'm like, if you don't get used to it, you're just gonna be losing your mind.
Yeah.
But
you're just gonna be upset.
Just enjoy things.
Just saying, I used to be like, everything has to make sense, and now I've accepted, you know what, sometimes it's not gonna make sense, but it's just cool.
It's just, sometimes it just has to be fun. Just be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Joe, what is the Lone Star Open?
Okay, let me take you on a journey here.
Oh boy.
So I play Warhammer 40,000. Miniatures game. You invest a lot of money into it. You got paying little men.
Little men.
A lot of my friends in Houston are big 40K fans as well. It's where I met a lot of them. I don't know if you also know this, but like, we're up in Dallas. There's a lot of card game shops. There's just as many of those shops in Houston. There are less card game shops here than there are in Dallas, and it's mainly like wargaming. Like
I see.
Wargaming game.
Houston's moving different. Okay.
Game stores. Yeah.
All these little men lovers.
So the Games Workshop announced the Lone Star Open, one of their 4 major competitive tournaments you can compete in up in Dallas. And we were going back and forth like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to go do that. It's real close. My friend, day 1, as soon as tickets opened up, went, hey guys, I bought 4 tickets. Let's go. Without any discussion with us. everyone went, what the fuck? Why would you do this? So we kind of
Wow.
got coerced / bullied into going to this tournament. I was like, all right, but it was a lot of fun. Now,
Yay.
leading up to this tournament, one of the things is that you have to have a fully painted army. Like you have to be like completely painted.
And that's
They're
like
like,
part of the. Go ahead, Bradley.
I was just like, they're like, motherfuckers gonna be taking pictures of this event, so we don't want to go figurines.
It's
Exactly.
fucked up. That's crazy, right? Because like apparently
is,
that's part of the hobby. Like they will gatekeep you for paint. Like they will gatekeep you.
Yes. Even in the rules, like the basic rules of the game, they say like if not every one of your models is painted and based, you lose 10 points.
Wild.
So it's like you have to do it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna run my orcs because that's my main faction. I want to play them. Leading up to the tournament, orcs had not gotten their codex yet, which is like their big update. And like when you get your codex, it's basically like your faction is fully in the game now. You unlock a lot of new abilities, and all of your stuff gets buffed or nerfed depending on how things were. But basically, like you're fully integrated into this edition of 40k. It's like, I really don't have an equivalent to like describe this basically, but like essentially like you go from like being like a beta version of a fighting game character to a fully fledged fighting game character. I guess that's like the best way to describe it. So they announced my codex for my orcs. I'm like, sweet. It comes out 2 weeks before the tournament. This is important because it means I cannot build a list or like a list of what my army is going to be until I have that book, because it has like the point totals for all of the models, like how much I could bring, my rules and everything. So I have essentially been blocked from painting my army until I know what I need to paint.
That is pretty insane.
Yeah, if I start painting stuff, I might end up painting something I don't want to bring. And I almost did that. So I got my book, I played a few games, and I settled on a 2,000 point list. And so I'm like, all right, I got a list. It's time to paint. I had to fully paint from the ground up 36 models, ranging from about 6 inches tall to about half an inch tall, in total. And 100 models in my regular army had to be touched up because all of them had base size increases. Basically, like imagine if like halfway through the One Piece card game, they are like, we're changing the size of our cards. All of your cards now need to be the same size. So either buy new cards or get things to change the cards to their correct size. That kind of shit. So I had to do all of that. So I spent 2 weeks of doing nothing but painting and modeling after work for 4 hours. Like I would come home, eat dinner, and do hobby shit.
Yeah, that seemed like a side job for you for a little while there.
Oh, 100%. Like it really truly was. In addition, on top of that, was squeezing in games or two to like practice for this event so I could really know what my army does. So ultimately, what it came down to is what my army came out to be was using the boys detachment. So basically, when you get your codex, you have like your main army rule and a sub rule that you can choose, like one of 5 sub rules you can do that affects your whole army. My rule was I take all my basic boys units and I make them much more durable, and I have a bunch of different like abilities I can use on those boys units to make them better in fighting and moving and coming back to life, stuff like that. And so the point of this list was essentially like, I'm going to get on the objective point, and there's going to be so fucking much of me, you can't get me off of it. And I'm just going to sit here and get points passively. So that's essentially what was the idea, which came out to be a list with 136 models in total in it, which is kind of crazy when I put it all out in front of me. And so I got it all built within those 2 weeks, and on top of this, I'm doing my like classes as well. And the week of the tournament, I have a project due. So not only am I doing my hobbying stuff, I'm also doing a programming class project at the same time.
Jesus.
So my brain was all over the place, but I got it done just in time. However, at the day before the day that we were going to leave, we got hit with this huge storm. And we're like, we're gonna have to delay. We will drive up Friday morning. The tournament starts at 9 a.m.
Oh my god, that is so risky.
So we woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. My friend, who is an engineer on oil rigs, who makes these kinds of drives all the time, piles us into his truck, and we go up, and we make it there in time for the tournament. However, one of my friends lost power during the storm, and he was in the middle of painting his army. So about 30 minutes before the tournament started, we're in the back of the building painting the rest of his army.
Oh my god!
So it's ready to get for this tournament. Like, we're literally the kids in the back of the class finishing their project before it has to get turned in.
Disaster.
You're just like, fuck it, make them orange.
Yeah, literally, we go up and we just buy paint off the shelves because they have their own store there, and we just start using it to paint his shit. But we got done in time and we all started playing. So the orc army is like best described as like Mad Max, the army. Like, it's the war boys from the Mad Max Fury Roads and Furiosa movie, where it's just a bunch of guys just running up the field.
Just a bunch of guys.
And just a bunch of dudes, and they run up the field, and it's just really aggressive. Their primary rule is called the Wa, and so once per game you get to call your Wa, and it buffs your entire army. To equivalent this in One Piece card game terms, basically imagine your leader says, once per game, at the start of your turn, your cards, as per the rules, wherever they are, gain 2,000 power.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've played against Red Zoro.
Gain rush.
Oh.
Gain double attack.
Jesus.
Until the end of your opponent's next turn.
Ooh.
It got worse every time you said something.
And all your cards in your hand get an additional 1,000 counter.
Okay, I've lost the analogy now because this is a lot, and I don't know how this applies to little men, but that seems strong. I'll just say that.
Essentially, everything gets plus additional strength. Everything basically doubles its attacks, gets faster, and like they're more durable. And like I had the 50-50 chance. I have like about 50-50 chance of surviving more attacks. Essentially. But as soon as I call that, it's over. I don't have an army rule anymore. Like, I'm gassed out. I have to win that turn, basically.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah. It's a great army. I love it. I like to describe it as a glass cannon that's made out of ballistic, resistant glass. But
okay.
So we start playing, and my goal for the tournament was to win one game each day. That's all I wanted.
All right, shooting high.
shooting high. Game one, we go up against like one of the key meta lists of the entire tournament.
Ooh.
Like, it's just like, all right, cool. We're off to a great start. I had a really bad deployment, but and I did as best as I can. It actually came out a lot closer. It came down to about like 10 or 15 points, which wasn't too bad considering how strong of a list that was. And I was just like, all right, that's on me. I should have done a bunch of things differently. I could have had a better chance. I was like, whatever. Second match is against Necrons, which is like the Robot Resurrection faction. And before I went to play the game, we got lunch and we got our pairings, and I was able to look at his list beforehand. And one of my friends who I came with plays Necrons as well.
Ooh. And
he's like, here's the thing. He has these 4 things into it. Literally just spend all your resources killing those things as soon as you touch them. I went, cool, I'll do it. My main like war boss, Gazcool, walks up, gets into contact with him, and it's like, all right, I'm spending a command point, or aka CP, to just target that dude, and bitch slaps him across the table, and he dies. And it just crumples his entire army basically. And comes into this giant clusterfuck fight in the middle of the battlefield. And the only way I was able to win that fight was that I stuck in a single model onto the point who used an ability to summon another objective marker next to me that the rest of my army can pile onto and score points off of. And won that, like, pretty closely, a lot more closer than it should be. And then the third game was really weird because neither one of us really wanted to fight each other. Because I'm a very close combat army, and they're a very shooting army, so we ended up crab walking a lot around of each other and just not doing anything to each other.
Playing footsies, neutral.
Yeah, lots of footsies in that game. Unfortunately, like, I overextended at one point and basically got comboed out and got killed with some very significant stuff in my army. And I lost that one by 15 points, which is really unfortunate. But I got my one win. That's all I really cared about.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So, go to bed.
So is that
Wake up the next
3
morning.
days? Or, sorry, 3 games in one day?
3 games in one day. We played from 9:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
That's
are
like how these
long-ass
go.
games. Jesus.
Yeah. You get about 3 hours each. So wake up. Game 4 is against Grey Knights, which are a Space Marine faction, but their big thing is like they can teleport around the battlefield. So their units are constantly like on the board and then off the board. So like they're just coming in and out. Like imagine like a bounce deck in One Piece where like you're just constantly bouncing cards to your hand to activate effects. Sure. This one was kind of on my opponent's fault. I'm going to be real honest with you. One of the things you can do in the game is like put your units into reserve and have them come on later in the battlefield. However, after round 3, if they're not on the battlefield, they're immediately destroyed. Like they count as being killed for any game purposes. So turn 3 comes around and he's putting things up, and we get to the point where you would deploy units to the battlefield. And I ask him, I was like, "Hey, do you want to put this on the battlefield?" And he's like, "No, I'll use my ability, which costs a point. Imagine like 1 Dawn, to put them on during your turn, so I can position them better." I'm like, "All right."
And you
fine.
don't say anything because you're like,
Yeah, I gave him warning. I was
Yeah.
like, "Do you want to put those on there?" And he's like, "Nope." I was like, "All right, cool."
Fair play.
So we
fair
go.
play.
Yeah, we start playing, and I move, and he's like, "I'm gonna Overwatch them." I'm like, "Are you sure?" "Yep." Uses Dawn, uses point. It's like, "All right, they're dead." "All right, cool." Into my movement phase, those guys die because you can't bring them onto the battlefield anymore. And he's like, "Oh no." That unit was 500 points, and we played 2,000 points game. So 25% of his army, was just not put onto the battlefield. And I was like,
"Oh man,
Well,
that fucking sucks."
we take
If I'm
those.
there-
We do. We take those so hard.
If I was there all day for such a big event playing these
Yeah.
3-hour games, that would rip
Yeah.
my soul out.
Yeah, and so I won that game 100-71.
Wow.
Yeah, and max points is 100 points. So then we take a lunch break, and I go up against kind of like the offshoot version of the first list I ran, which is an Ironstone Black Templars list. And I'm talking to this dude, and he is like very bombastic. By the way, I don't know if y'all know this, but during these events, they just have beer carts going up and down the alleys.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
How's the smell?
Smell
Yeah,
is not bad. It's actually kind of good. Like, fine.
Hard to believe, but alright.
But like, I think it's a really well ventilated room, and there's a lot of space, so that helps a lot. Also, during last game, the stream game got finished early, so they went around to other tables and they streamed a turn of our game up there.
Joe's,
so I got
Joe's
to be on.
Famous in the scene now.
Yeah, so I got my other bonus mission, which was I just want to be on stream for a little bit, like, and I got that. I was happy. So this game starts, and we're playing through it, and he is like, at the top of the game, says like, "Hey man, I like playing real casually. We're at the point now where, like, you know, you've got like 2 wins, I've got 2 wins and 2 losses. We're all good." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, cool, fine, it's whatever." I buy him a beer, we have a beer, and we just keep going. And this guy just gets fucking mad at everything that happens. Like, we're going through like armies and stuff, and we get to a point where it's just like, all right. He's like, "All right, what does this unit have?" It's like, "Oh, this unit is majority AP -1. It's like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna use this ability." I'm like, "All right, well, I'm gonna attack with the character that's in this unit, and he's got AP -2, strike damage 2. He's like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that?" It's like, "Well, motherfucker, you didn't let me finish." Like, it gets to the point where he realizes that like he charges a big block of boys, like a 20-man boys unit with 10 dudes, and they only kill 6 guys. And he's like, this is fucking bullshit. I quit. And just packed up his shit and went home.
Well,
and I went, all right.
We
cool.
Say it together now. We take those.
We take those. I was just like, I'll take the free concede. That's 300 points to me. So easy peasy to me. I was like, great, cool, I'll take it. At the same time, my friend who bought the tickets and drove us is up on the main stage playing his game. And so I got to watch his game for a little bit up there as well.
Neat.
Which was really, really cool. He ended up getting 18th in the entire tournament, by the way.
Nice. Out
of 300.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. So, very good for him. His list is killer. He also played orcs. And I sat there and like I had to run through his list and help him out with it as well. But like, he played great up until he was up there and he lost that game and really tilted for the rest of the day. But I think the nerves just got up to him. But yeah, we take those for that game. And the last game I play up against is against Chaos Knight. This is like playing against an army of evil Gundams. Cool. That's the army. And it's horrifying because the biggest weakness my army has is taking down armored units. Like, that's the reason why I struggled against the first list, because it was mainly all tanks. And so this unit being nothing but armored units means that, like, oh, fuck, I really need to be making an impact on my points here this game.
It's not looking so good for our hero.
It's not. So he starts walking up the field, and I'm like, all right, turn 2. Fuck it, we're wogging. I run everything up, and I throw Gazgul, who's my main, like, big star unit. He runs up and tackles 8 of these walkers. Not 8, sorry. He tackles 3 of these walkers by himself. And I was just like, he's going to hit all of these guys. And he takes down all 3 of them. His army is only 12 of these things.
Okay.
So that guy by himself takes out a quarter of his army, basically. My other 2 boys units each take out another unit of these walkers. So that's 5 of them down. We've got about half of his army down at this point. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna just keep going up the field. We don't care anymore. We're running towards the other objective on the other side of the field. Yeah, basically. And so he's just like, I can't be in combat with these guys anymore, because he basically just killed all of my close combat dudes. So all the rest of these guys only have guns, so they can't fight when they're in combat with other things. So he's just retreating backwards, and I'm just like, run, that's my point now. Run, that's my point now, and I'm just taking points as I go. However, there's another portion of the game that isn't just like holding the points on the board. There are these secondary objectives. They're kind of like, they're like bonus objectives that you do, but they're worth 40% of your points in the entirety of the game. And I've been drawing absolute ass objectives. Like, I'm scoring like 3 to 4 points every turn, and he's scoring 10 off of his for these bonus objectives. And so it's gotten to the point where it's like, it's really even, and we're on the last turn. And I'm like, well, I hope it's something good. And I draw him, and it's literally like, hold the majority of the points in the middle of the board, and hold the point in your opponent's backfield. And I'm like, I'm already there. And that's 15 free points for me. And it came down to be, let's see, where's my phone? It came out to be 60-53, a 7-point difference. Like, those last 2 cards really saved me.
Damn.
At that point. And I won, which meant I won all 3 of my games on my second day, which was incredible to me.
Good feels.
I know.
So that's 4-2?
4-2.
Wow.
So there was, yeah. So there is a third day. We could not stay the third day because my friend had to drive us back home. But the third day only has 2 games, so I had to drop those. So technically, my record ended up being 4-4.
Oh, 4-4.
Fucking be an adult, man.
Yeah, I know. It sucks because I'm pretty sure I could have potentially won 1 more game or 2 of those games if I had driven myself, which I was going to do, but I couldn't do that waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, but for our sanity purposes, we're like, you know what? we're only here for 2 days. We're gonna count those records of being 4-2, and we all did really well.
He got 18.
Everyone was...
Your friend got 18, missing 2 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's nuts.
So
he was on track for like
the first 2 days.
Yeah.
I got 80th. So.
Ooh.
That's really good.
Maybe a lot of people drop because like. Come on, these are
they
6
do. A lot of people.
games.
I'm pretty sure the guy that I just fought fucking dropped after my game. He was so fucking mad, dude. God, the shit this guy was saying. He's like, statistically, I should have killed this fucking unit in the first round of combat. I'm like, statistically, you're a bitch.
Yeah. Anytime someone says statistically,
yes,
that I'm playing, I'm like, you're a bitch.
Especially when it's a game that has dice as the way to determine outcomes of things.
Okay, but you can't be mad at my triggers when I'm playing Counter Courier, because statistically I should have a few in life.
I don't. I get annoyed, but I'm just like, whatever, it's part of the game. It's how it is. Man, it was a lot of fun, and I was really hesitant about doing it originally, but afterwards I'm like, that's great. It was lots of fun. It was really well worth it. My army is now painted, which is like crazy, because I've had this thing for 12 years, and there's always been something not painted that I've played with. So I feel so glad that my boys are together now. So it just made me really happy as a hobbyist to get through this. So we've decided that we're going to do another one, but there's 2 twists to this. One, it's in Atlanta.
Cool.
And this takes place in their world championship like thing. However, you can't get into like the championship tournament unless you like meet qualifiers or you get invited or whatever. It's like the Pokemon League kind of like you have to get all the badges. However, they have an alternative event called the narrative event, which is like you join a team and your team is then competing on like this narrative that the Games Workshop has constructed, and the outcomes and the events in that narrative event then get turned into a short story and actual canon for the hobby itself.
Yo,
that's kind of badass.
That's super cool.
And so you get to name your like leader of your army and what your faction is, and like there any kind of like accolades that might have, and like your different like squads and everything, and for a chance of glory and like being part of like this kind of narrative portion to it. All of us are going to be part of the Imperium, which is like the human races. The human race, because like we all have that army, like some sort of human army, because otherwise we'd be fighting up against each other, and that just would not be entertaining for us because we already fight each other all the time.
Sure.
But that does mean I have to paint a whole other army this time around.
So it begins yet again.
Yeah, but it's in November.
And at least there won't be a new codex 2 weeks before, right?
True. Yes, that's the other thing.
That'll
like
help.
I'm playing Space Marines, and that was like one of the first ones that dropped, so they're all good to go. But I had to paint 2,000 points this time around. For the narrative event, you get a 1,000-point sideboard because it's so different. So it means I have to paint 3,000 points worth of stuff.
That fucking sucks.
Better get going.
Yeah, but this is a much more elite focused army. It's not a horde army like my orcs are.
Yeah, get a couple primed in the remainder of the podcast. You're gonna need it.
Oh, I have my friend that does that. Like he's like our main primer. Like he's just excellent at it.
That's cool. Y'all got like rolls.
Yeah. Like I just leave my shit at his house. My role in this whole situation is I sit there, and I'm the person that like really like pokes holes in your list. I'm also the legal aid in everyone's shit. Like I've sat there and like watched people's games with them just to make sure that they're doing things correctly.
Yeah.
And I've been there before. Like when I used to go a lot in our local home scene, I was the guy that always sat there and just kind of almost refereed games, because I don't like people cheating, and I want to play people that actually know what they're doing, and that does both basically. But yeah, so like that's our kind of different roles thing. But we all had fun, had a great time. We're excited for this event. I just got to scavenge up $300 to pay for the ticket. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
cool. Thank you for taking us through that journey, Joe. That was cool. It's cool that you have.
That was like my one big thing I did this past like month and a half.
I mean, it seems like a very time-consuming big thing. So yeah, that is fair. All right. What we got next? Oh, I've been playing games like the last few months that are all lining up into me finishing them all like at the same time. So I got like a little mini catch-up block here. 1 second. Okay, what have I been playing? I checked out Another Crab's Treasure. Have y'all seen this game? This is the
yes,
little
like the Soulsborne.
Yeah, it's the little crab Soulsborne game. It's got a good sense of humor. It's got very default Unity lighting. That's like the main knock against it visually. It's got some fun dialogue and like pretty cool mechanics. I think like you get a little skill tree in the game, and like every little node feels pretty significant. You get some really cool stuff in it. You get to like hook onto enemies with like a fishing wire. The main gimmick during combat is like you'll find a bunch of shells just littered throughout the world, and these shells have different skills once you go into them. So it kind of controls like what your magic attack is, and you get to. I went to this big city where you get to permanently buy some of these shells and spawn with them. So that's pretty cool. Like right now, I'm rocking the tortellini shell. It is a piece of pasta that I can eat at any time, and it consumes some of the durability of the shell, but I get to heal from it.
I was saying that seems like the immediate draw of the game is like, oh my god, I want to see all the shells. I want to see what they do.
No, yeah, the shells are very cool. There's shells that like there's a tennis ball that lets you like roll into enemies. I got a coffee cup or like a coffee can, like some coffee thing that like gives you a speed boost. Like all sorts of like goofy little shells, like soda cans, normal shells, just all sorts of weird things that even I haven't seen yet. So that's really cool. You only get one weapon in the game, but you have like a decent moveset, I guess, for like a Souls game. And it's cool. Cool bosses so far. Very tongue-in-cheek. Not a focus game, but I'm definitely planning on getting back to it. Pretty cute game. And it's cheap. And it's like not too long. What else? I checked out Hades 2. Hades is an interesting game in this podcast because we're like... We don't love Hades, unlike the rest of the internet, who is like obsessed with Hades. Because I remember like we all liked it, and I think it got like top 20 of like the year it came out when we did our game of the year or whatever.
That's the thing. I've gotten to play a few runs and I really liked it, but I heard some interesting stuff about Hades 2.
I think Hades 2 is significantly better of a game. Like this one's like Hades 1 combat I thought was like long and drawn out and not interesting, and it just didn't flow very well. I think Hades 2 fixes that so much. The weapons you have, like now you have a proper mana bar that you can use to use like a charge weapon attack, charge spell attack, and a charge cast. And the casts are like you drop a circle and that circle slows people down, and if you do the charge version it stuns people in it. And if you remember how that game works, like, it's a lot of shit rushing you down. So being able to, like, charge up and drop a circle that stuns everything around you is a good way to kite enemies. So right off the bat, that makes combat flow better. And you remember on the first game, you throw that shitty little, like, diamond at stuff?
That thing was goated.
No, that thing was so unfun to use. Like, you throw this little thing and it sticks to people, and then you just have to poke them more with your weapon, like... It just didn't click with me as like a fun tool to use in combat. Like it was you had it, so you had to use it. In this game, you press that same button, and depending on your weapon, you just shoot a bunch of magic, and you get to do a charge magic shot. And it's like cool, a proper projectile that, and now you're god. What
proper function
with a proper function? Like you have proper functionality in combat in this game, and now your god boons all like integrate with those things just like they did in the first game, but now they're integrating with things that are actually functional and interesting to use. So that's already like for gameplay purposes, I'm so much more into this game.
I put Hades on my PC or my laptop I have here just to play a few rounds because everyone's been talking about Hades 2. And like, man, that fucking crystal thing, it never clicks for me. And it's
so
and like
silly.
You can't build around it effectively or efficiently either. Like you have to get a boon that goes to it, and that might be something worth having. I don't know. It just was wild.
Yeah, like all your and this is in Hades 1 too, but like all your different attacks, you can get a boon that like buffs them. But like just the way that some of those get buffed is just not interesting. This one you also get like the Moon Goddess, which gets you a hex. and a Hex is like a ultimate attack that you charge up by using mana throughout the run. So now you have like ultimates and transformations you can do. So that's like a new function in combat as well. A lot of the builds is like getting mana recharge because you're going to be wanting to use mana for everything. So like it's just like an actual resource that's interesting to keep track of. The enemy attacks are less annoying to dodge. There's less annoying shielded enemies. The bosses have better patterns. Just all in all, very good.
You know, I've got something to say though. Is like you were talking about the mana bar upgrades. Like that's from the Moon Goddess, you said?
The Moon Goddess has a super attack that's charged from you depleting your own mana over time.
So, does every god have ways to upgrade your mana regen, or is it just... Okay.
They have different ways. Like, there's a god where it's like, stand still, and it recharges. Athena is if an enemy struck with, like, her debuff, the little heart debuff, and you're near them, you recharge enemy. And on that same buff... Aphrodite, sorry. And on the Athena is actually, I haven't found her in this game yet. And because they rotated some new gods in, like Hephaestus, whatever the fire god is. Hephaestus. So additional to that Aphrodite buff, an enemy will always be debuffed on the map, and if you kill that enemy, it'll swap to another enemy. So like, you're guaranteed to have that debuff on at all times, and as long as you're near them, you'll get the mana recharge. Zeus will reduce your mana bar considerably, but it is recharging at an insane rate. One of my favorites is Poseidon. Poseidon's cracked in this game, Jesus Christ. Every time you hit an enemy...
I love his water boy.
I do love my water boy, and he's great in this one. Every time you hit an enemy, Poseidon has a chance to make that enemy drop a orb that recharges your mana by a lot, and you get a ton of these orbs, so you never run out with a Poseidon build. And yeah, just really, really cool stuff there.
What about the Eris quote-unquote blessing?
Oh, right. So, there is the negative. If you're playing the game too good too early, you get hit with a debuff that straight up makes the game unwinnable. Like, someone's gonna do it eventually, right? But they're gonna be a god that's played the game for hundreds of hours to be able to pull that off.
That's gonna be a no from me, dog.
I got hit with that on my third run, but that's the only time I've gotten hit by it. I think...
Is it just like to kill you before you get to like certain areas kind of a thing?
Yeah, you get to the final area, and then you get... Actually, it can happen in any of the areas. I got it in the final one. And then, essentially, every single room you go through, you will get increasingly higher damage taken. Every single room you complete, until it's untenable.
That might be just an alpha or a beta thing to get rid of that one.
I think, well, as soon as that happened, the next run I did, I got a pretty significant story cutscene that introduced, because like in this game, you go to Tartarus to rescue Hades because Kronos has taken control of your dad. Kronos is very cool in this game, by the way. He is the main antagonist. So you go to Tartarus there, but then there's also a war being waged in Olympus, so you can also choose to do a run where you go upwards instead of downwards. I have not done one of those runs yet, but it has different mechanics and enemies and bosses and stuff. So this one game already has 2 campaigns in it. Kronos fucks with you in really fun ways. You see him in between like areas at times, and he teases you and does stuff. One time he kidnapped me and put me in the fuck-ass lava world from Hades 1.
The Phlegethon.
Oh yeah, that place sucks.
That place fucking sucks, and now he's like, get out, bitch! And I had to like run around and deal with these enemies that are not in the game otherwise, and try to...
fucking hate that place.
Yeah.
It's the place that died the most because it's just lava. Damage.
Oh yeah, there's... Also, the areas in this game are so much better. There's way less of those pits you can fall, lava spots you can fall in. Area 3 is really interesting. Like, every location in Area 3 is a giant field with, like, multiple boons, like, spread all across it. But to get those boons, you have to, like, engage in more and more fights in that same field. And you have to do a certain amount before you can move on, so that's pretty interesting. The only returning world is the 4th one, which is Tartarus. Like, you get a revamped version of like a Hades 1 area.
Cool. With
like enemies that aren't as annoying. The bosses are cool. Like in the first game you fought Meg all the time, and this one you fight your like witch teacher. she's somewhat notable in Greek I forgot her name. It's like, it's Hescathate. She's on Hecate. She's on Persona from Persona 5. That's how I remember her.
Yeah.
The second boss is the Sirens, and they're like in a band, and like you got the lead singer and a clam, and then the drummer, and then the guitarist. The guitarist rushes you down. The lead singer like is defensive and shoots projectiles, and the drummer is always in the back doing huge AOE. So I always rush the drummer down first.
So is it all three at the same time?
All three at the same time.
Fight?
But if you knock one out, it stuns them until you knock all of them out, and then you start like phase 2. So like you get a breather if you can rush one of them down, and then you fight Cerberus as the third boss, and then and then you get fucking Kronos, and that I haven't done anything with the other world. So yeah, like if you want Hades, but if you want the Hades experience that the rest of the internet had, play Hades 2, because I actually really like this game. It's really cool. Haven't had much time to play it, but yeah.
Here's the real question. And do we put Hades 2 on the Game of the Year list this year, or do we wait until it comes out fully?
I'm having experience with it this year, and it has enough content to be a video game, so I'd push for it.
Okay.
I beat Persona 3 Reload. Talked about this before. Shit, dog. This game is unreal.
I was about to say, like, the original Persona 3 is one of the first games that, like, I think you ever, like, told me about as one of your just, like, peak games. So the fact that they had a remake come out that went above and beyond is awesome.
Oh, some people will complain that this game takes away the dumbass shit that was in Persona 3 FES, like not being able to control your party members and a stamina mechanic in the dungeons, and like it just takes away from the identity. Shut the fuck up. Fucking losers. This game is such an improvement over already one of my favorite games. So you ever have a game that like changes your life and then you have it do the same thing twice? Because that's a new experience for me. Because playing this as an adult, knowing where the story goes, hits so much different than playing it as a teenager like I did back then.
Maybe if BioShock comes out again.
Yeah, like you would need Joe. Yeah, this would need a BioShock remake at this level. But even then, like the themes of Persona 3 are always going to be applicable to life. It's a beautiful story. I can count on my hand the numbers of time I've cried to media. That number is 4, including Persona 3 Reload, and it's the most I've ever cried because that ending destroys me. It's incredible. Yeah. And I wish I could talk to y'all about it. I'm never gonna spoil this game. It's too good.
You already did, Willer.
I did.
Do you not remember in Disney? I tried to like get you to like be the strategist while we were playing Smash Bros. I'm like, can you tell me the entire story of Persona 3? And you went, yeah, they'll never remake this game. And then you told me the entire story.
Whatever I told you back then, I forgot so many elements. I was like, this is basically playing it again on some of those months. I was like, wait, this is the story? So that was fun.
Okay.
Tyler, you were going to say some nonsense?
I was going to say, on your comment about crying to media, I was like, I watched season 3 of Haikyuu on Saturday. I'm pretty sure I cried like 3 times.
Well, the thing, I would say I'm more emotionally attached to media than like most of y'all. Maybe not Bradley, but maybe even Bradley, but I don't cry. Like, I get emotionally attached and invested, but I'm not a crier. Like, I'll go through the list.
I'll watch the same Pixar movie 7 times and cry every time.
That's so interesting, because I get so into it, but like it has to hit me there. Which just goes to show you, Persona 3 is that story. The other ones that have done it, to keep track, is the ending of Zatch Bell. This is an increasing intensity. So we got Zatch Bell, we got the ending of Amori got me fucked up, we got Mother 3, and then we have Persona 3. So that's the increasing list.
Since you name dropped Zatch Bell, Emmy was also giving me the speech on why Zatch Bell is peak.
Okay, it is peak. Don't let her talk you into watching the anime. You have to promise me.
I see.
The anime of Zatch Bell is unfinished and really, really poorly executed, but the manga is great. I'll just throw that out there.
Let's fucking go.
It's such a stupid story, but that ending is very good. And then I've been playing a fighting game called Undernight Inbirth. I don't have much to say. This is my first time touching this series, but it's been very interesting. This is an anime fighter, but the same people that do Melty Blood, which these are both very niche fighters, but they kind of cook, man. They know how to make an anime fighter that I actually enjoy and don't get overwhelmed by. They really know how to make good systems, good movesets, like good feeling movement. Like they just nail it on all accounts. Unfortunately, the player bases of these games are always tiny, so it is hard to get matches, and that's like the one thing holding them back. But like, this game has an insane system where every 12 seconds there's a meter in the bottom. It's 2 sets of 6 grids, like 6 little diamonds. Every 12 seconds, whoever has the most diamonds goes into a powered up state that gives them new mechanics. And now you have to fight for the next cycle. And the way you get those grids are a fucking massive list of offensive and defensive like scenarios in the game. Like everything that you could do in a fighting game contributes in some way, negatively or positively, to that grid. And then doing certain moves will consume that grid. Or like using a defensive option and getting grabbed out of it will actually break that person's grid, and they don't have it for the rest of the cycle. Like, just you're playing a strategy game during a fighting game, and like you can ignore it at the start, but once you figure out like how it works and like the benefits you get from it, it's really addicting to like loop that into a already fast-paced fighting game. But like it just works. It's just really good. And then This can kind of be like its own topic. Joe and I both beat Stellar Blade as of this period. Joe beat it first, so you get to talk about it first.
That's a good game. I actually really liked Stellar Blade like a lot towards the end of it. I think like a lot of their mechanics really came together. I think that final area, that's like the space elevator, really cool.
Why did they go so hard? That could have been a cutscene.
I don't fucking know, man.
I
crazy shit.
Didn't know what I was getting into, but they just decided to make the most extravagant area ever.
I have 2 major complaints. Is that one, I feel like I really finally got to the game, like the big meaty part of the game by the end of the game. Like everything kind of came together, but like that's more of like a short pacing issue thing. That's complaint 1, and it's a really minor complaint. Complaint 2, which is more of a major complaint, is that there isn't you go back to before you fight the final boss or before you start the final like stretch of missions where you can pick up stuff. It's you're fucking done. You can't go back. You're forever stuck in front of like the final boss room.
Now,
you
Joe,
can't go back.
Have you played around with the New Game Plus of this game? Because I actually think it's incredibly well done.
No, but like from what I hear, it's like you get new skills and you get like
you get new skills, new equipment. You keep all your stuff, but also for completion's sakes, they respawn all the body cores, all the Tumblr expansions, all the drone expansions in the world, so you can still max out without having to like
you don't have to
go fucking find everything with a tutorial.
That's cool. That's really good.
And they add new tiers of upgrades beyond quote unquote max.
Cool.
If you want to like, and even then you'll have so this game has a surplus of amounts of things you need to complete the 100%, which thank you Jesus Christ, because it's so annoying to miss one collectible in a video game and then have to go through 2 hours, 3 hours of like video guides to try to find the one that you missed without like a tracker of some sort. It drives me insane.
God forbid it's in the one location that you can't go back to.
Yeah, I mean,
ever.
It's not a problem with this game. In fact, like one of the trophies is like get 60% of the data banks. Like they don't ask you to get all of them. Like to get the trophy, it's like get most of them. I like that. Like,
well, it is a problem because the last cans are in that space elevator area, and so if you want to get them again, you have to go through the whole game again.
But the game is so well paced where like you can rush through that shit if you're like skipping cutscenes and not doing side quests. Like
what ending did you get?
I lost the plot a little bit at the end. I was following it really well, and I lost it a little bit when shit got wild, and I ended up getting the bad ending. Which is I got the lily meter, the mysterious lily meter to 100%.
Did you take the hand or did you not take the hand?
I did not take the hand.
Okay.
But that
I took the hand.
But that ending that you get from not taking the hand sets up a really interesting sequel. So I'm not that mad that I got it. But then I looked at the game's lore after the fact, which this game actually has pretty cool lore. And then I was like, oh god, I fucked up. I did not do the right thing. You took the hand. That's interesting.
I got a whole new outfit.
Okay, I mean, I got the Raven outfit. I'll say from.
That you get that from New Game Plus.
Okay.
This is like a whole other outfit because you and that person do something.
I can. Ooh, what the fuck? That sounds interesting.
Okay, so I have another question. Who was your final boss?
It was the Elder Natiba.
Okay, mine was not that.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine was the other person in the room.
I figured that would happen. That's so cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Elder Natiba fight goes hard. I'll say that.
Bro, that fight against that thing was like, oh god, frames. Like, it was just hard to read, because it's a big, bulky thing.
Yeah, I guess it's in the mech. Yeah, okay, that makes interesting.
Also, that Raven fight was
so cool, so good.
It was very cool. Kind of fucked up, but very cool. I really like how she started countering your shit.
Yeah.
Like your special moves.
I hit her with a triplet and she fucking kneed my face instead. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah.
It doesn't take your life away, which I've really liked because
it's cool. It's fair to you just wasted your meter. That's fine.
Yeah. I like how, so you know how she can do like the 1,000 cuts move?
Yeah, she can do the Virgil judgment cut like you can.
Whenever she did that, I would just immediately counter with my own.
Me too.
And then by the time she comes out, you're just killing her into a demon.
I did the same.
Like, get fucked, idiot.
So
God, that took me so long.
I didn't have the issue you had where I didn't feel the game took that long to get there. For me, Joe, the issue I actually had with the game is tacky mode. There's no you unlock stuff for it, but there's no mechanic there. Tacky mode is a fucking go ham mode because you stagger everything. So why have so many defensive mechanics in a mode? Unless I'm missing something, you can't build up, beta, or burst in that mode, so it's might as well just go ham and just.
And there's no
swing.
real reason to do it when you're facing a bunch of things other than to rush through them, because the game's not so difficult. We were getting
I do it because it's full and I don't want to waste the meter.
Right, but it doesn't. I never feel like. I need to use this as part of my kit. It just felt like, oh, right, I have this. The only time I felt like I need to remember to use this was in, a boss fight or against, Raven, because, you could, go through a significant amount for techniques because you're invincible during that time. And, so, which is fine. I like that I had to incorporate it into my moveset now, but it really just, it felt very much like just go button mash mode and go crazy. Compared
to something like Devil Trigger, which, and you've played 5, right? There's a lot more mechanics in Devil Trigger, and you have to, remember inputs, and you have new inputs you can do. Yeah. And, there's stuff to it. This is just a unga bunga.
You have to try to maximize Devil Trigger.
Yeah.
Whereas this is you got it. Just go crazy.
Yeah. And then the one thing that I really like the story overall, actually, especially after I did some bonus research after, but it's missing in the character department to make that story a little more investing. That's
I was grooving with it until I was grooving with it overall.
Yeah, overall, no, it was definitely a groove.
My hunch, when I got to Zion, was correct.
Mine was it. That is not where I thought that character would go.
I was just this is what the world is now, and this is who we are. Okay, cool.
Fucked up world.
Yeah.
I will say there's a cool thematic, you know how you pick up notes in games, in Amnesia, or I complained about it in Liza P, and the notes are no one wrote this before they died. This is stupid. In this game, it makes sense because everyone has a memory cell in them, and ultimately you're collecting those memory cells to take them to heaven, quote that. The idea of these people afterlives is their memories living on, and being placed somewhere at the end.
They're in the Black Mirror episode.
Sure.
San Juanita or whatever it's called.
San Juanita. Sure, that's close. I forgot the name. San Jose.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Junipero.
Junipero. There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, overall, you wouldn't think the big ass robot lady video game would have themes about humanity's relationship with religion, but that's kind of the main theme of the story is exploring what religion means to a society, and I thought that was weirdly compelling and interesting.
I thought I was really vibing by it definitely by the end. Like I was just I had a much bigger appreciation for everything that was going on than I did at the beginning.
What was your build that you went with? Like,
bro, I don't fucking. Oh, I had the Exospine that like increased your parry window timing.
Yeah, sure. That one's incredibly good. Like,
yeah, and then I forget what my second Exospine was. If I'm being completely, oh, it was chain. So like the longer my chain attacks went, the more damage I did. I got to a point where like I was able to loop a boss. Like I just found a chain loop that was infinite. It was able to keep them stun locked the entire time. I was like, sick.
I realized only New Game Plus you can stack attack speed. Which means like that's huge because getting to the end of your chain is not always feasible with some of the boss's patterns. You have to stop partway through or like get an opening. Mine, I went burst. Like I got the burst skill chain, and the last little note in that is every time you do a combo level 4, you build up some burst, which is like one of the only offensive ways to build up burst. Because I think it's you mostly build it defensively.
I think I had most, if not all, of the skills unlocked by the end of it.
I had a lot of it, but anyways, great game.
I also got all the cans.
I did not get all the cans. Maybe in the New Game Plus. I might platinum this because this game respects your time. That's what I want to close with. Like, I like when a game respects my time because like nothing pisses me off than a game that squanders it. So I
also
respect that. Some of those Eve costumes. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the.
Whoa!
Man, doing the final boss in lingerie was surreal.
See, I had more respect for that. You unlock a cost like that trader lady by the job board. She gives you a costume at the very end, and I rock that till the end game.
Which one is that one?
I forgot what it's called. It was cool. It was like
the other one that I really liked was the punk one where she's like wearing jeans, like the whitewashed jeans, and
I liked the one where it's like orbital exploration. She has like a plastic bag like sleeves. I don't know how to explain it aside from that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Did you get Did you get Sporty Yellow? That one's really cool.
It's the baggy one, right?
No, Sporty Yellow is yellow as fuck. You would know if you got it.
Okay, I probably not.
The costumes are great. I was switching costumes like every couple save points because I had so many.
Yeah, no, that I'm thinking the one that I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Anywho, I still think this is a good recommendation for Bradley, and it will be a cool action game for you to play after Kingdom Hearts. I feel like this has a lot of Kingdom Hearts and Souls like action influence, in my opinion, and the exploration is really addicting.
I'll need a new action game in the rotation.
Indeed. Yep. All right, Tyler, this one is unexpected. Have you been reading Mistborn?
Yeah, I read Mistborn book 1.
All of it. Okay.
Book 2. Yeah. I'm done with it. Yeah, it was all right. You know.
It was all right. B-Sans fell off before he started.
No. I think this book came out before.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was like his.
This is 2006.
It's like one of his earliest books, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of like his. I wouldn't say breakout, but like the book that kind of like the series that really kind of made you get attention towards him, if that makes sense.
Before Stormlight, if like I only knew his name because of this series.
Yeah. That's alright. You know, that's it. Nah, I'm fucking with you.
Wait, was it actually alright or was it good? Now I'm confused.
Okay, so no. I talked with our local Brandon Sanderson expert. This is a very slow book. It is basically a heist book, a little bit.
I've watched Brandon Sanderson lectures because he teaches classes, and those lectures are just online. If you want to get some interesting lectures about how to write, I think they're really interesting, and he talks about Mistborn a lot. So
I don't have a talent for writing, so I think I'll just avoid that.
Sure.
But I'm sure they have good stuff on how to make me understand how to be a better writer than I currently am. Anyway, the book is about a character called Vin, who is a street urchin, and she's a part of this gang that's ripping off part of the government in the main city. And this world they have like a power system, and their powers revolve around.
Mist?
I don't know yet. We'll get there. Um, like metal. So like they eat metal, and then they gain force powers essentially. So like one of the force power but everyone is called a misting. What?
Is this allomancy? Is the power?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the allomantic powers. So, if you like, everybody mostly has one power, and they're called a misting. But if you have all 10 powers or can use all the metals, you call them Mistborn, which is where our character Ben comes in. As a part of this gang, she's helping do this heist and everything, and she's like abusing shit and like starved to death nearly. But the gang leader keeps her around because he calls her lucky, because things kind of go their way whenever she's around. Turns out she's been using allomancy this whole time without anybody knowing it. And in comes our main character, Calcier, and his crew coming to like help recruit her and take her and train her in the ways of allomancy. Yeah, it's slow. Imagine if imagine what is that part? It's like all of book 3 of Stormlight. Basically.
The part you're talking about is fucking Kolinar.
Where they're in like the other side, you know? They're just on a
that book has 2 bad parts. Yeah.
yeah. It's like it's just slow.
Shadesmar, is that what they called it? I forget. The Shadow.
There's a lot of character development, a lot of like there's a mini training arc. But one of the most interesting parts about it is when they start going undercover and our main character starts to like so there's like the nobles and like the middle class, and then there's everybody else, which are called like Ska. And it's not like the Stormlight Archives. The Ska are basically just the lower class. They're slaves, they work the plantations, they work menial jobs. Some of them like make good names for themselves, and they can like have leatherworking shops or glass making shops in the city, you know? And like the upper people, like the lords and the middle class, will like buy from them. But basically, I think the entire world is set up. It's like you're either a noble or you're Ska. So it's like the middle class is Ska, the lower class is Ska. It's just the name of the people.
Ska's a funny word for it.
Yeah, Ska's a type of music too.
Yeah,
it's like a weird reggae band kind of thing.
Nobody in this world is listening to Real Big Fish. Let me tell you that. No one's got Superman jumping around doing 720s on skateboards.
Jesus.
So
wild bulls.
I know. Our main character starts to like go undercover and starts as like a noble at certain points, and like starts to develop this love interest, and that's pretty cool. It has some good, like, it shows Brandon Sanderson's really this is one of his breakout books. It really shows his ability to describe fight sequences really well. And that just carries through, because, you know, I'm audiobooking it. It's Brando Sando.
Yeah.
I gotta have something on the car ride, you know?
Gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah, his just ability to describe action happening in books, I think, is what carries so much of his writing.
He's good. He's also, like, I don't know, like, not just, like, fight, but, like, movement. Because I think of, like, the Bridge 4 scenes in book 1. That's, like, what hooked me into Stormlight, is, like, just how intense and, like, well visualized, like, the bridge runs were in that book and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's, like, easy to follow.
Yeah. There's not a lot of hooks in book 1. And I think that's what... It took me a really long time to read or listen to. It's only 30 hours.
It's not bad. But, like, that's not short.
It took me almost like 2 months.
Bro. I'm like halfway through Shogun, and it's been like 3. Like, you're doing way better than me.
I don't know. It's not bad. It's pretty damn good. It's just
Slow.
a build up for something a whole lot more.
Now, is book 2 delivering on that?
2 so far is really delivering because there's this mysterious plot point that really has me hooked.
Mysterious.
And I can't say anything about it.
Don't, because I will read this book one day.
Yeah, it completely spoils book 1.
Yeah.
So, this plot point, I'm really hoping evolves into something a lot better, or like what I'm expecting it to be. It's good. Book 1 has a lot of good mystery into it as well. It has the other main character, Calcier, who's like really he's really important to the story as things start to build up, and like training Vin and everything, and the way that they work together. So it's a good continuation going on as like how she's growing so far in book 2, and like with the gang and everything. So it's book 2 has me hooked a lot more than book 1. Book 1 was something I got to fill the like space. Book 2 is something I'm picking up because I want to.
Nice.
So it's good.
And
I see what the hype is about. I've been told that book 2 is one of the better things that Brando Sando's written.
Hey, I mean, Brando Sando's written some good things. All his books are bangers, and then there's Oathbringer, who is everyone's favorite, and I'm like, all right. I'll point out, Oathbringer broke 2 people on this podcast. They've never recovered.
That's book 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bradley's about to say, I need to restart Oathbringer for the 4th time. Just go.
I was
just
thinking
power
about
through.
that book earlier today, even.
Because book 5 might come out this year, right?
Do people think Oathbringer's the best one?
Oh, universally, I think go on like the subreddit, go on YouTube videos. Oathbringer's everyone's favorite. I'm like,
I hated that book. I outright hated that book.
And then Tyler, and then they have the gall to talk shit about book 4? Excuse me?
Okay, so Oathbringer, I'd like to say this. Have me on the record. Oathbringer is one of the worst things.
Write that down.
Sorry.
Write that down.
It's not written poorly.
No, it's no. Technically speaking, it is a well-executed book.
Fucking hate it.
The
It's one
Shalom
of the
segment.
It's one of my least favorite things I've ever consumed. All of the books from Solo Leveling, the light novel, I like leagues above Oathbringer.
Brandon Sanderson in the fucking gutter, man. He's losing to Solo Leveling.
It's one of the best things I've ever consumed, period.
Book 4 is so fucking good! Man.
It is amazing.
You know, Tyler, we never did get to have our talk about it, which is a great shame. But can we just talk about Kaladin and, what is Dalinar's wife's name? Navani?
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
Navani's storyline and Kaladin's storyline in that book is so fucking peak. But anyways...
the call's coming from inside the house.
I love Die Hard. It's so good. Anyways, Bradley, you should just pick up where you left off in book 3 and not understand anything and just power through, because it's the only way at this point. Because
That's the thing. I've heard that I've gotten like 2/3 or maybe even more of the way through book 3, and I hear the end of book 3 is like fucking peak.
The thing is, I don't think you've gotten to what me and Tyler consider the boring parts in that 2/3. Like, you haven't even hit like the boring stretch, I think. Which is crazy, because like
Shadesmar fucking
Shadesmar, that's what it's called.
I did get to there, and man, it finishes
cool, but like, my god. And then there's the part where like I think Shallan is in Kholinar, like doing spy shit. I was so unengaged. Oh my god.
Kholinar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you like Dalinar, he has very good scenes at the end, and like, but you have to sit through a lot to get there.
Dalinar is the guy that like gives up his shard weapon and plate, his shard sword.
Yeah, he's
and it's fucking awesome.
The goat.
He's the goat. He's the king's dad? No, he's the king's uncle.
No, Dalinar is the king.
He's the king. No, but
like the real king. He's the real king.
Spoiler. He is the king.
No.
He's like the king's brother, I thought.
He was okay.
King's brother.
So, yeah.
Yes, Tyler, you enough from you. Okay. Speaking of books, Joe, you're gonna have to speed round some of these books.
Woo! That was the plan, anyways. Okay, so I listened to a bunch of books while I was getting ready for Texas Lone Star Open. So I fucking blazed through.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna go these basically in order of me listening to them. The first up is the Tainted Cup. God, I meant to look up this person's name, for the author, but it is a fantasy book, written by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is very different. Where like in this fantasy world, technology wasn't developed through metallurgical means and like through electricity, if you know what I mean. It's instead progressed through the cultivation of like plant life and like genetic like augmentation through those plants and like fungus and stuff like that.
So like they're not making harder metal alloys, they're like growing harder plants.
Correct. And like so like basically everyone, like whenever you become an adult, you get a graft. So you graft a plant inside of you to specialize yourself into a part of society. That's not like a major point of it. That's like a kind of like a world building thing. It's not like Divergent that we're gonna get into here. But this is a mystery novel. That your main character Dim, he is known as an engraver. So what his ability is that he has he has this kit of smelling salts that I call his glue kit. And what he can do is whenever he enters a scene, he smells one of the like smelling salts like vials, and he walks around and interviews people, and then he smells it again and closes it. And when he goes back, he has perfect recall of everything that he sees, even if he doesn't actively look at it at the time. That's like his grafting power.
Okay.
However, his graft messed up when he was like getting it installed, for lack of a better term, into him, where he can't perceive writing that he's seen before. Like, so he can't like recall anyone's writing or anything like that when he like goes and recalls stuff like that. And he works for another lady whose ability I can't remember. I think she's just like a human computer, but she's like the Sherlock Holmes of this duo. And so your main character is the Watson, and then you have the Sherlock Holmes character as like your secondary protagonist character. And so they're investigating the murder of this noble who died because a plant got put inside of him and then grew out of him while he was in the shower. And it leads to this huge government conspiracy. Oh, by the way, there's fucking kaiju monsters that are trying to invade this kingdom, and I've broken down the walls. So you also have Attack on Titan in this world.
I love it.
Yeah. So like that's the other thing too, is that like the way this guy died also killed 6 of the engineers working on this wall, which caused a structural collapse and caused the Leviathan to break through. So they had to figure out what's causing it so they can fix the wall and get it back under operation. I would say the story is like a 3.5 out of 5. There's a lot of just kind of like talking and just like discussing, nothing really too impactful. I think the world building in this book is really, really good. I think it's very creative. It's very visual. I felt like it felt very unique. And like I had to take a break from the book because I started it earlier, and then when I started painting, I picked it up again. And I was just like, okay, I'm just kind of here to like see all these characters and see how they like work and operate. And I enjoyed it by the end of it. It's just really weird because like everyone talks in a very sophisticated manner, but then your Sherlock Holmes character is just swearing the entire time. So there's a big juxtaposition between those characters. But I really enjoyed it. Bradley, I think you would enjoy the world building aspect of this. I don't know necessarily you would enjoy the characters and the mystery part of it. I think Tyler would really like it because he likes that world building stuff.
I'll say right off the bat when you were describing it, I'm like, the Plant Society sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool way of doing it, and like I thought that was very creative choice there. So I finished that up, and in the painting, I was like, you know what? I'm painting my Orc Boys. I need to listen to some Warhammer books to really get me in the mood and get me psyched up. So I listened to Mike Ross, Orc duology he has for Ulfak Blackhawk, which is a character that he made. And so for a lot of times in Warhammer, orcs are usually like the antagonist characters or like a secondary part of the book. They're never like really the main focus. But these books, they are the main focus and they are the main characters. And it's just really fun. And it just like he really captures the essence of like an orc, the mindset and their goofiness and like their ferocity, and humanizes them to a point where you're like, okay, I'm along for the ride. But at the same time, this guy's fucked up and he's just killing dudes like it's like he's playing video games. So I recommend both of those books. The first one is Brutal Kunnin. Brutal Kunnin literally ends like Metal Gear Solid 3, with the exception of like the boss fight. But like it ends with he breaks into a secret facility. There's a secret mech they've been building. The mech breaks out, and he has to destroy the mech. And he's like in a fucking trike while he does it. Just very funny when I was listening to it.
And then they have the emotional scene where he has to do the big boss salute, and you're like, oh my god.
Well, at the end of the book, he gets the title of Big Boss.
Oh my god, shut up.
No!
You're making
it's
this
so
shit
fucking...
up.
No! Very funny. But I like both of those books. Big Dakka was also really good. That one, I like that one more in terms of just like he really focused more on the orc side of things, and it just felt a lot more fun, I would say. But then I also picked up Ciaphas Cain for the Emperor. So this book series was the original book series that got me into Warhammer, and it's been a long time since I read or listened to them. So I thought I'd pick up the first book because I realized I never actually read the first book. They're really much like an anthology series kind of a thing where it's like it doesn't really matter where you start. You just pick a book and you start reading. And like even the narrative like lens of this takes is that like basically there is someone called an Inquisitor. Kind of think of him as like CIA, FBI agents of the Warhammer 40k universe is going through this Imperial officers like memoirs, but they're all out of order. So she's just kind of like digging through them where she can and like collecting them together, partially because he's seen a lot of shit that not a lot of people have seen, and because there were also friends / lovers. So it's kind of like a reminiscing thing. You're kind of figuring that like this person has probably died at this point, but we're not really sure. But I think of all books to get into Warhammer fiction to really introduce you to the world, the Ciaphas Cain series is like the way to go, because that character is the epitome of fake it till you make it.
That's
like,
pretty good. I like that.
He's like a not a high. He's a commissar, so he is not in the like army structure. He's like the morality officer of the army. So like he can't like issue major orders, but he can like execute a general if he thinks they're doing something that's heretical, essentially. So he's in a very interesting position of power where like a lot of people respect and fear him, but he also doesn't have full control of the situation. So you get a good middle ground. But like he's just that big old fucking coward, where he's just like, I know this whole universe is a fucking bullshit, and everything's trying to kill me. I just want to sip my tea and relax. I don't care for glory. I don't care for any of this bullshit. I just kind of want to not get shot at for the rest of my life. But that's not what Warhammer is. So he is just constantly trying to like get out of these situations, but ends up running into the worst situation instead. And it's all through his own like personal like memoirs, and you get interjections from this Inquisitor, his friend, that like say like, well, actually he's wrong about this factoid, or like, actually I talked to him later about this, and that's not all what he was thinking at the time. And I thought I should let you know. Very good cast of characters, a lot of like great world building as well, and it gives you a good like grounded view of the 40k universe that is a lot easier to connect to than other novels. in that universe, because a lot of them are very grandiose and just assume you know what Warhammer 40k is, while this one is much more tailored to like get people more gently involved with it, with a much more human character than something like a space marine or an orc or so on. But I listened to all those books while I was painting, and they got me in the mood of 40k. And then I bit the bullet finally after finishing Ciaphas Cain and started the third book of the Dandelion Dynasty. I'm about 6 or 7 hours into it, and the beginning of the book they go through a character list and give a summary of every character. They got to a character like, this character dead, and I immediately got Vietnam flashbacks to their death scene in the book. And also like a better appreciation for it because I realized it juxtaposed to another character that had a similar thing happen to them, and it made me appreciate that scene a whole lot more, even more so than I did when I first heard it and read it. That book is off to an amazing start. I'm floored. This Ken Liu, who also does translation for the Three Body Problem. His world building and his way of just conveying different cultures and their clashes, but their similarities are so evocative, and it's such a great like thought experiment of like these like what happens when these cultures clash, and like what does it really mean to be honorable, and especially compared to to people that are nothing like you. It's very, very interesting. Always recommend the Grace of Kings. Great series.
I believe I bought it, Joe, and it's sitting there in case I ever need to shed blood.
Yeah.
Because, I'll shed blood for you, Joe.
Oh, I know.
Those other fucks won't do it, but I'll do it.
But yeah,
Never.
all the books it did, very, very good. Tyler, you weren't here, but I recommend you kind of check out the Tainted Cup for world building purposes.
Did you say the Tainted Cup?
Yeah.
No, seriously, is that what you said?
Yeah.
The Tainted Cup, yes. It's just got some good world building, not a lot of character development, so right up your alley.
Oh yes, brother.
Say no more. He's in there.
Yeah.
Wait,
but it is a mystery.
Kind of world building.
Like, basically, the way I described it to Willer and Bradley was that rather than develop technology through like electricity and metals, they make fungus and crops that can change your biological makeup.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Okay, Joe, but this means you have to do Dungeon Crawler Carl, and now we're a 4-man Dungeon Crawler Carl podcast.
Listen,
Joe,
man, I need blood on the paper first.
Joe would love Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Joe watches some of your trash, and this is actually good.
It's true.
So,
Maybe.
It's all uphill from here. All right, is that good, Joe?
Yeah, I'm done. There.
I'm excited to hear about how the third Dandelion dynasty destroys you, because that they all seem to.
I'm already dying on the inside very slowly,
Fantastic.
but also feel like my soul is being
Uplifted,
accelerated to heaven. I don't know.
Bradley, it is time for our quad annually. It hasn't even been out that long. Update on Claw. This is the Wildbow story. Claw. We've talked about Wildbow here before, once or twice.
Yeah, and I think I talked about it briefly around the time it started.
You did. You gave us a first impressions.
Yeah, it was a quickie, so there's been time to sit with it, and I am very proud to announce that Wildbow is back.
Oh baby.
Oh yeah, dude. Here's the thing. The pacing of the story is fantastic, and with Wildbow, I feel like there's kind of two different authors. There's the old Wildbow and the new one, where the old one was a lot more fast-paced. The characters never get a break, and the newer stories, it's less fast-paced than that. There's a lot more slow moments. We're kind of deep diving into the characters more, which for me, sometimes I didn't like it as much as the older books like Worm and Pack, just because I like that fast pace.
Yeah.
This book really just feels like the best of both.
Ooh.
It's so good. The premise is this is Wildbow's Breaking Bad, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It follows Mia and Carson, who are a 30s, 40s suburban mom and dad with kids, and they are involved in business like disappearing people, keeping hostages, getting you a new life if you need it, like the vacuum guy in Breaking Bad, stuff like that.
All upstanding activities to do with the family.
All upstanding activities, and they're really interesting hearing how their brain works, like while they're doing these things. Like for example, they might have someone kidnapped and they're holding them in a room, and Mia, the mom, she's like, here's the thing, I know this is bad, but my deal is I'm a mom, and there have been times we've been asked to kidnap kids, hold them for a few days so this person can get a ransom. And she's like, if I wasn't doing this, someone else would be, and those other people are not parents. One of the kids we kidnapped didn't even know they were kidnapped while they were here for the whole week. So she's like, I just know, I'm going to take care of them. So there's a lot of like internal justifications for the things they do, and sometimes they get a little terrifying. The stuff these characters are comfortable doing, which, I mean, wild bow protagonist.
Yeah, and then I shot blank.
Yeah.
You know how they do.
So here's the thing, though, is I was going through the first arc, and I'm like, this is good. Like, it starts out great, but I'm like, there's no way it's just a crime story. Like, there's a million stuff out here like this, and I know wild bow, and I know there's something else cooking here. And oh my god, there was. So this might be spoilers just for the end of arc 1, but oh my god, it was a bombshell and it got me hooked. So one thing we had known about the main character up to this point is that sometime in her past she had had a fall. The fall caused her a lot of brain damage. I think she was even in a coma for a little bit, and when she woke up, she forgot everything. And when I say everything, it even means stuff like ABCs, how to brush your teeth, like everything. So she kind of had to rebuild her life from start. She spent a long time being alienated from people because she's like, I talked like a caveman. But she and the other people around her realized it actually ended up really good at learning and doing a lot of things that other people can't, because she had to like literally teach herself step by step on how to do things like brush her teeth. And so she views things from a different angle than most people, but she is very bizarre. She's a very paranoid person. Anyone in her neighborhood, she could just pull up her laptop, look out of their doorbell camera if she wanted to, and she does whenever she doesn't have anything else to do. Their house is loaded with lethal traps. Very paranoid person. But here's what was crazy. We get a flashback to the day that she moved out of her parents' house, and her parents clearly do not like her. They can barely even look at her. They're not even really talking to her while she's packing up and getting ready to leave. And she's just trying to give them some parting words, like, I wish like things could have been better between us. And her parents are like, we just wish we could have had our sweet little girl back. And she's like, I've been my current me since the accident for way longer than you ever had your little girl. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, like, fuck, man, like Mia's kind of a good person, and they're being really hard on her. And then the last thing her mother says before she leaves the house is, you scare the fucking shit out of me. And I'm like, this character wouldn't say that for no reason. And I'm like, she does do crimes in the current day, but other than that, she seems like a well-adjusted individual. Anyway, she leaves her parents' house, and as she is going out of town to start her new life, she passes by a house where the front door's open. She can hear a couple arguing, and there's a baby in the car, out in their car in the driveway, and it's like 110 degrees in the middle of July. And she's like, whatever, I need to stop anyway. And she's like, well, there's a baby in danger. It's in the car. And so she sits there for a few minutes. She's like, are these people gonna come out? And they're just yelling shit at each other. And this couple's arguing like, is that even my fucking baby out there? Fuck you, all this stuff. And she takes the baby out. She's like wiping the sweat off of it. She's trying to take care of it.
Your fucking upstairs neighbors.
I know, right? But then like 20, 30 minutes go by and this couple still hasn't come out. And in her brain, she's like, if I didn't stop, this baby might have died in that car. And these people fucking suck. And she steals the baby. She steals the baby, and it's revealed that her daughter in the present day is that baby. But then, in the present day, which is 12, 13 years later, the original mom of that baby moves to their city, and her kid is going to the same school.
Oh,
and
juicy.
It's really wild. It's very juicy, and Mia ends up in a conversation with this mom just because all the parents are standing outside picking up kids, and they get roped into a conversation, and the lady's like, "Oh, so which one's yours?" And she's like, she's not around right now. But oh my god, it's just and it's wild because that conversation right there ended up being considerably more nerve-wracking than all of the literal life or death stuff that came right before it, which I thought was awesome. And that conversation, and here's the thing, that mom who had her baby stolen after Mia stole it, it became a big national story. Like, everybody in their version of the United States knows this woman, and she was the lady who left her baby alone and let her baby get stolen. She has pretty much never had anyone be nice to her after that day because they just view her as this irresponsible mom. And Mia's like, she was. Fuck her. But here's the thing. As they're leaving that conversation, Mia's like, I'm sorry you lost your daughter. And that lady is like, I did not lose my daughter. She was taken from me. And she is very clearly determined to find this daughter and get her back. So on top of all the crime stuff going on, there's also that in the background. It is fantastic, dude.
And they were roommates.
Other cool things. Wildbow has gotten way better at writing romance since Worm, because oh my god, like the way people in this book just feel very organic, and the way the husband talks about Mia is just very genuinely heartwarming. There's literally only one complaint I have with the book at all, and sometimes when there's dialogue going on in a book, right, it's going back and forth. It's like X character said, or this character exclaimed, blah blah blah. Now, if two characters are just going back and forth over and over and over, you don't necessarily have to do the they said this or they replied every single time. You can just have each line be another quote.
Yeah, classic
you know
stuff.
that. Yeah, you know it's alternating. There has been a couple times where they're alternating, but then the same character ends up saying two lines in a row, and I don't realize until a few paragraphs later, because I'm like, it doesn't make sense for this person to say it. And sometimes he even is employing that same technique when there's like a group of 3 or 4 people talking, and it's like, I don't know which quotation is supposed to go with which person. So that, I mean, it's only happened a few times, but it's a little confusing when it does. But other than that, holy shit, big recommend. I know Wildbow said that he's really committed to making this like a shorter form story.
Shut
like,
the fuck up.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think he might mean it this time.
Uh-huh.
This story had a similar thing to Pact, where once we've established the setting, I'm like, okay, what is the worst, like absolute worst case scenario, worst possible thing would completely ruin the protagonist's lives? And I'm like, that's probably what's going to happen at the end of the book. It actually happens like really early on, and I'm like, holy shit, okay,
now,
what are we doing now?
Can I go ahead and say that in arc 9 of 16 of Pact, the worst possible thing that could happen to any existence happens to the main characters? It's like the story goes on for 7 more arcs after that happens to Blake. So
that's the thing. I'm really hoping he doesn't pull a Wildbow and drag it out for 17 arcs.
When you were explaining it, I was like, this would be a fantastic screenplay, but it's gonna be at least 6 arcs. So, and he doesn't like condensing or changing anything, so I can't see that happening.
At the very least, at the pace the story is going, I at least believe him that it's going to be shorter than the other ones.
I mean, sure.
Very pleased.
I think
this arc will be shorter than the other ones.
I can't see it being less than like 5 or 6, which is still like pretty meaty.
I think he said he estimated it at like 6, which means it'll probably be like 8 or 9.
It's 8 or 9. Okay.
Or 30.
Okay.
This dude would suck as a project manager.
Oh yeah.
Just like
that's why he works for himself.
This guy needs to get scoped.
Hey, put some credit on the GOAT's name. That guy's out. He sticks to his schedule, as far as I understand, and pretty much never delays. Right, Bradley? Like maybe
this was pretty good. He he's writing essentially like almost a Harry Potter book a month, and he
Jesus
consistently
Christ.
puts out a chapter every week on the same 2 days. And to be fair, some of that stuff I complained about with like the dialogue or the conversation. Anytime he posts a chapter, there's always a thread with like typos or like stuff that wasn't clear in the text, and he does go back and eventually edit them. So I don't know, maybe it was just like I was reading it right.
So I have to ask my Willer question. There's no audiobook for this, is there?
There is not.
I don't believe there is. Okay, and when they pick it up, you know, I hope it goes more packed and even worm as opposed to a pale audiobook, because I have some issues there. But anyways, beggars cannot be choosers. So I'm just a complainer at the end.
At the very least, very pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
Actually, I don't even know if I'm surprised.
I mean,
it's just pleasant. I'm glad.
It's wild though. He knows how to fucking get shit done and write some good stories. Okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, you can tell us about Destiny 2, because you're trying to get out of here to play Destiny 2.
Dude, you are... So, you know how you wait for a decade?
No.
For a game?
You wait for a decade.
Yeah, like, you've been doing something for a decade, and the ending comes out,
Yes.
but then your friends need to hold you responsible to doing a monthly podcast? Do y'all ever relate to that?
No, I don't. But...
I don't, because I have the power of no.
Yeah. So Destiny 2, the final shape has commenced. I think I'm about halfway through the initial story campaign right now.
It came out yesterday.
I don't want to talk to you about it.
Oh!
Oh.
Oh.
I mean, sorry. I mean that as in mind your own fucking business.
You know, I got it.
I got it. No, I understand.
I thought you meant as a. I thought you took that as in like, oh, it's bad.
No, I took it as I saw you get on at like 10 p.m. yesterday, and somehow you've made it halfway through. So something happened between that time.
This is the main plot, though. So like. The main story campaigns usually are a little bit short.
Okay.
They're usually only like probably like 5 to 8 hours long. It's great so far. The missions are actually very diverse and interesting. There's a lot of new enemy archetypes. They're reusing raid mechanics and like basic missions, so you have to like figure stuff out. And they're not like difficult raid mechanics either. They're kind of some like the most basic interaction ones, which are still really fun. The new setting is really cool, and the plot is like a little mixed, I guess. But it's like they're wrapping it up. It's really cool. So the final shape is both the name and the action that the main antagonist is taking, aka the Witness, or the Walking Smokestack, as probably a lot of y'all have seen in ads or something. So have I told y'all about the Witness before?
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay, Joe says yes, it's true then.
So I'll tell Willer then. The Witness is an entire race of people that were brought to life by the big ball in the sky, and they said, "What is our purpose?" And the big ball doesn't have a mouth to talk to people; it just does stuff. And they got really upset. They saw that it can't talk, and they're like, "You're God. Like, tell us what to do." And it's a big ball. It doesn't speak, you know. And they're like, "Why aren't you talking?" And it's like, it doesn't have a mouth. It can't talk. So they got really upset by that. They did some magic and combined every single entity of their race into one body. And now they're going to take a picture of the universe and freeze everything in time.
Wow.
In you're in like the most intense moment of your life is what they said. And they said it's like, oh, it's a good thing or a bad thing, and it's really vague a little bit. But they want to just kill everybody essentially. Yeah, they want absolute control over everything, and the final shape is them shaping everybody into this final picture, this snapshot of the galaxy.
Getting them into that moment.
That pose. Yeah.
That's cool.
Where they'll spend eternity.
That's
They're
very
basically
very interesting.
they're basically Will Ferrell's character in the Lego movie.
Yes, they are. What is his name?
Mr. Businessman.
They are Mr. Business.
Yeah.
You ruined it.
Yeah. No, he's like on point.
No,
is
it's
Mr.
on point.
Business.
It is what it is. Okay, fair enough.
But the coolest thing is they're adding. So this is like Destiny's final bit. This is the end of. It's not the end of Destiny 2. They have some post content they're gonna like buffer the game out with.
This is like the end game of the MCU for Destiny.
This is Avengers Endgame Part 2.
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame Part 1 did involve some like wish making and like witchcraft and shit, and that was really cool. One of the main characters turned into a hive god, and as a brand new hive god beat the shit out of like a eons old hive god like super quick in like 2 days. And I was talking with one of our other friends. They're like, oh yeah, what if Zeebo Wrath comes back, you know? He's like supposed to be really threatening. I was like, dude, he got beat he lost to like a 2-day-old hive god. Like, how is he strong? He's not.
Oh, we power scaling Destiny 2 characters now, eh?
Yeah.
Nice. We're there.
I had to put that logic into place for a little bit.
Fair.
A second. They have a new subclass. This is supposed to be like one of their final new subclasses, which is pretty interesting. It combines different parts of all the pre-existing subclasses. So like each subclass has like 2 or 3 different supers to choose from, like 10 grenades, a couple of different other abilities and like passives. And the new subclass is called Prismatic, and it takes like 1 super from each subclass that you can choose between, like 1 grenade from each subclass that you can choose between, and a couple of passives and everything, and you can just kind of have these like super creative builds and try that out.
Sounds cool.
It's basic. Oh, well, Willer, this will sound interesting to you. It's basically the Luminous subclass from MapleStory, where you wield light and dark at the same time, and you have a light and dark meter that both build up from doing different types of damage with light and dark, and then you consume them all at once to do like
light and dark attacks.
Yeah, light and dark.
I didn't play much Luminous, but I feel the energy.
Yeah,
it seemed really cool. I watched Skill Up's like preview video and that subclass. I was like, oh, that's really neat because it's based off like the weapons and your build, and like that's really cool. Actually,
they're also introducing a new exotic type, Joe, where it's the cosmetic aspect of the class. So it's usually for Titan, it's the mark. For Hunter, it's the cape, and for Warlock, it's the bond. And at the end of Destiny 1, they did the same thing, but it was very cosmetic. In this one, it is absolutely not cosmetic at all. So these are usually blank parts of your character. But now what they're going to do is if you want to take your exotic slot up into the class-specific slot, it will have 2 exotic perks randomly rolled on it from each individual class.
Interesting.
So, like, the Titan can have exotic traits from Warlock and Hunter on his, like, sash mark.
That's
so...
And this is the final update, right? So this seems like go nuts kind of thing?
This is...
So, okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
This is the final year-long... Like, they are saying this is the end of the Light and Darkness saga. After this, they're not doing seasons anymore.
Yeah.
So they have what's called chapters. So, like, over the next course of the year, we're going to have seasons again, or story chapters be revealed. But I think they're going to do, like, they're basically going to release the same amount of quarterly content they're planning to do, like, as they've normally done, I think. And they have a roadmap for it. But it's kind of...
They're finishing
like,
the Four Emperor saga, and it took 10 years, which is exactly the same amount of time.
Well, it's like we said, it's like Avengers Endgame. Like, we've been building up to this, and after that is like WandaVision and everything. Shang-Chi.
I hope it goes a little bit better than, after Endgame.
Same. So, it's vague, like, what they're gonna be doing with it and everything.
Yeah, they have not been very open about what their future plans are. The only reason I know so much
Yeah,
about
I was gonna say,
Destiny
you
is
know a
because I
lot
watch
about
Skill Up.
this. Yeah, okay.
I watch a lot of Skill Up, so I watch his videos, and he talks about Destiny a lot, so I'm in the loop a lot about Bungie stuff.
Sure.
I think behind Bife, Skillup has the most Destiny content on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, he has a large variety of content. Skillup is a huge Destiny fan.
He's a huge Destiny fan.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I was like, yeah, The Witness.
Yeah, I know The Witness, of course.
Right now, in Chapter 1, they have, it's called Echoes, and they have an exotic mission, a new weapon, and then they have 3 different acts in this chapter that are all going to be 6 weeks long. And in Act 1, that's when they release new quests, new story, new activities, new weapons, artifact mods, past rewards, new armor. They're not doing new armor each act. They're only doing that with the beginning of each chapter, so that's like every 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
But with each act, they're doing new quests, new story, new activities, new weapons, new artifacts, new pass ranks, and pass rewards. Whatever that means. So that's it's basically a season still. It's just broken down very clearly. We don't know what they're going to do after this. I don't think it's gonna... I don't know. I genuinely don't know at all. Because, like, they have Marathon that they've advertised. I would be okay if they kind of dropped Destiny 2. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was one of the... Like, it was a console game that came out a decade ago. It really pushed the model for what live services can be. Not a whole lot of games really matched up to it. I think one of the few that did is probably Warframe, which is just coincidental. They're both thematically the same setting.
Yeah.
But nobody else is really pumping out content as much as they are in terms of longevity. I mean, Fortnite, sure. Like, the big
But
that's slop. That's like just
it's easy
giving
to crank
you
out content if you're doing a bunch of crossovers.
Yeah, like it's not like this big overarching story and like all these
narrative.
Like,
yeah.
Fortnite is stuff to do, and this is like stuff to experience.
Now the caveat there is, Tyler, is that a big portion of that content that's been coming out for 10 years has been sunsetted and put away.
Well, we've done this song and this before. Yeah.
I know, but I'm just.
You really are a skill up fan.
Yeah.
It is still weird. Like, I think I think you can do all of last year though. Still.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they sunset last year because the new expansion.
I fucking hope not. It's a year ago.
The new well, I mean, that's how it has been.
Jesus.
But you won't be able to get like, what is the name of the model now? It's kind of I don't know if Genshin does this, but I know Honkai does, where like they'll have like a limited time event.
Oh yeah.
And they just put it on a backlog, and you can go experience it at any time, and you can still get a lot of rewards. But they won't be. But there's an entire separate reward tree of time-sensitive rewards.
Yeah,
so you can't
that's fair. That's fine. That's fair. That's fair.
That's fine.
So like,
I would. Yeah.
Any. I think that's still a lot of like. There's still weapons that drop during it. I think, but anything that was time-sensitive, like Ingram-wise, or weapon-specific, like Queen's faction weapons or anything like that, might be gone. Also, any weapons that they previously sunsetted, meaning they put a light level cap on them in the past, were uncapped with this expansion. So if a lot of people went through and cleared out their like vaults of old weapons that got like light capped, they became uncapped in the future.
Cool.
But a lot of people deleted their shit, so they might be unhappy about it. That being said, a lot of the weapons they are adding still are a lot better than the old weapons. There isn't a whole lot to go back to that isn't better now.
Right.
Because they've really invested into the perk pool. And in this one, there's like a new weapon there's like 3 or 4 new weapon archetypes. One of them is a sidearm that shoots rockets, which is pretty cool. The other one is an auto rifle that you charge up by getting kills, and then you can shoot your allies to heal them with those charges.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is very cool. It's neat.
Hero Shooter's been doing that for a while.
Yeah. This final set, it's a big celebration of the game.
Cool.
It's a lot of big cool achievements. They're doing a lot of cool stuff with the classes, the perks, the mods. Lot of customization for the characters. It's fine right now. I'm blinded again. I've got the blinders on. I'm zoned in.
He's locked in, boys. All right. Well, should we keep moving on so you could get to it before 10 p.m.?
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
Right. Y'all played Balatro, so you could talk about that a little bit.
Who else? Who played Balatro?
Joe's a Balatro boy.
Are you Balatro?
Yeah, I have it on my PlayStation because I can just play it.
Oh, is it on PlayStation?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
That seems like a not PlayStation game.
It's not, but I was like,
you're one of the weirdos that does PlayStation handheld thing.
But I played on the same TV as my PlayStation because
okay,
I got my computer.
You might as well then. That's yeah.
But I was still playing with a mouse, which is you can just play with a mouse.
Yeah.
Joe, I thought it was a good game.
For $15, it's a real good game.
Good game,
I'd say.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like went fanatical and crazy about that. It might be because like we play so many games that we just have so much. But like, it's a really like I don't know how to describe it.
It's
like,
a clean game. It's crisp.
Yeah.
It's very complete. The design is very locked in. It's very focused.
It's polished.
On point.
Polished as fuck.
Polished.
Yeah.
It's like the thing is like when I'm playing Balatro, I'm like in it. Like I'm thinking and I'm really diving into it and I'm thinking about like what's my run gonna be? Oh, I lost, I want to play it again. But like when I step away from Balatro, I'm just like I don't think about it at all.
Same.
Right.
Like I don't think about Balatro once I step away.
It is it is this year's Vampire Survivor. Which
I do think about Slay the Spire at least twice a week, though.
Well, that is a completely like Slay the Spire is it's a video game. It's got video gaming things like Balatro is. I mean, it's all like, but you're not fighting things. We like to kill creatures. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, that's I think the more impressive thing is that it's a game that like is a roguelike that does not involve any sort of combat. It's just kind of playing cards.
It's very unique that way.
So it really takes the minimum viable product of like a regular card roguelike of like what's my combo of cards gonna be to beat this thing to like what's my combo of cards to get the points because it's basically the same thing. Like what amount of points do I need to like get past this?
It's a health bar.
Tries.
And eventually everything is fishing, according to Joe. So
of course.
I think that's like maybe what like kind of deters me away from it is it's too on the nose with its theme of like the underlying elements of a roguelike, which is a lot of risk, a lot of reward sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is it the idea that it's like it's such a strict point threshold? It's like I'm doing everything to see that number hit that number, and that's like a different inversion from seeing a health bar go down. Like
basically like to put in perspective, like you have your blind, like you have an ante, which is like basically imagine like a floor in like Hades, and like you have to get through 3 blinds. There's like a big, like a small blind, a big blind, and the boss blind. And once you beat the boss blind, you proceed to the next floor. An interesting thing about this game though is that you can choose to skip blinds. So you're basically like skipping rooms.
Yeah. If
you skip a room, you get a reward, but that means you don't get a chance to go to the shop and upgrade your deck or your build or whatever. But so you're really like, oh, if I skip this blind, the next time I go to the shop, my Joker is guaranteed to be a rare or better. But the next blind is significantly harder to beat. So can I beat with my current build one blind higher, or do I need to use this blind?
Classic. I mean, this is standard risk reward.
Yeah.
Do I risk it for the biscuit kind of? Stuff.
Yeah.
But
polished, very polished though. Yeah,
very polished. And man, it feels real good when that number go up. Let me tell you,
it feels good when those jokers start clicking very quickly.
Oh my god, it took me so long to figure out the times multiplier thing and why they needed to be to the furthest right.
Yeah,
it finally clicked in my head. Like it multiplies the entire multiplier. It doesn't just add to it like the other ones do.
It is a very easy game to understand, but not to pick up. It's like if someone's sitting there telling you how things work, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. It's easy to learn, hard to master, and like just kind of visualizing those combinations. There's not a lot I think else to like talk about. It's real good. I will say that.
I would say it is a good roguelike, good game, but I don't think it hit that upper threshold echelon of like
it's
roguelike games, you know?
It's got a real solid mild sauce.
Yep.
But I really like that spicy sauce.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
It's not the game, but it's a good game.
Yeah.
Fair
For
enough.
$15? Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially I play around before I go to bed. It's like, sick, I did math.
I've been considering, in the same vein as like this kind of game, there's a game called Brotato that I played at Trevor Nashland's.
You say Brotato?
Brotato. And it's Vampire Survivor, but a lot more roguelike-y. And it was fun.
Right.
You get a lot of, like, there's different characters with different playstyles and classes, and like...
Oh, it's by the Binding of Isaac people.
Yeah.
I wonder...
It's all that same, like, slop, like, good feeling... No turn off brain game that's become really popular. Like, I think devs are tapping into like the aesthetics of the gambling industry with the mechanics of the roguelike industry to create these like addicting experiences that you just kind of like zone out to. I have a game for that. It's called Pirate Warriors 4, so if I ever needed like just shut off my brain, I'll go play Pirate Warriors, which I finally got the modded version on PC, by the way, so that's been fun. But yeah, anyways.
The Balatro got banned in Australia for like a hot minute because of gambling reasons, and they're like, "You don't gamble in this game. Like, it's just like you use the poker system and that's it."
But chips, yeah, I don't know, whatever.
But yeah.
Anywho, we can close this off with Bradley talking about the 3-body problem for the first time ever.
Oh boy. And what a book it was. No, I reread it, and I reread it because I really wanted to read the book that comes after this, The Dark Forest, because a lot of other people I've seen online have had similar experiences to me, where the first book in the series, 3-Body Problem, they're like, frankly, I just didn't like it. But then a lot of these people are also like, I powered through, read book 2, genuinely the best piece of fiction I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
And I'm like, I want it. I've always heard good things about this series. And also, like, I went ahead and reread this before going into the next book because I think you could probably read this book like 4 times in the time it would take you to read a Stormlight book. It's really short. The audiobook was like 8 hours.
Fair.
Okay.
So rereading it was really good. Brief overview. It's just most of the book is kind of framed as like a mystery where you're getting stuff revealed through flashbacks and just stuff the character sees. Mostly what's going on is that all over the world, scientists are killing themselves in droves. Really weird stuff is happening where they're just like, I guess the laws of physics just don't exist anymore because
Cool.
they're noticing really weird stuff in their experiments. And the analogy one of the scientists gives is, if I had a pool table and I lined up the cue ball and the 8 ball and I told you to hit it, sink it into the pocket, you could do it. And if you had that exact same setup and you moved that pool table anywhere else, even if it's a different pool table, if you have the exact same setup every time, you're going to sink it every time. And that's part of how science works. You set up experiments so you can get predictable results. And he's like, imagine that you hit the ball one time and it went in the pocket. You hit it the next time and the ball shot off at the speed of light and left the solar system. And then you hit it another time and the ball flew around the room like a bird and then landed in your pocket and started purring. That's essentially what is going on with just scientific experiments all around the world. People just can't make progress because just baffling shit is happening. And their scientists are just killing themselves because they're like, I don't know. Fuck, I guess nothing we ever knew about the universe is correct.
So hold on, they're killing themselves from dread, not from like a supernatural thing?
So that's the thing, partially that.
Oh.
But other scientists who don't give up their research begin being tormented by they don't know. For example, our point of view character has he's taking pictures, and this countdown is appearing in the pictures. And every time he takes a picture, he's like, if I count the amount of seconds between picture, the countdown has gone down that many seconds. But he's like, it's weird because this isn't a digital camera. Like, it's a totally mechanical camera. This shouldn't be happening. And then he starts seeing the countdown in his eyes. And he's like, holy shit, what is happening? And basically, the countdown is threatening him to stop his scientific research.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
It's really fucking cool. And basically, this book is a prologue book, which is why I don't feel that bad about spoiling the end of it. This book exists entirely just to prep you for the ride that is going to be book 2. At the end of the book, you realize that the closest star system to ours, 4 light years away, has an advanced alien civilization. It's just really hard for us to detect each other because space is big and we just didn't have the capability to detect it yet. But their homeworld really sucks. It's inhospitable for life, and they've kind of spent the last however many millennia trying to either figure out how they can continue to live on their home planet or figure out how they're going to live somewhere else. And one character actually makes first contact with this alien civilization, and they tell them all about Earth. And the alien, they sent a message out to space and about just Earth and what it's like here and stuff like that. The first message they get back is, do not answer, do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. And they're like, they're like, with only one message sent out, no one is going to be able to pinpoint exactly where your planet is. But if you send another message, they will know, and they will come, and they will kill all of you. Now, this book is set against the backdrop of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. I did a big Wikipedia deep dive, but this character essentially had a very bad time during that time period in China. And they just don't have any faith in humans, and they send another message, and they're just like, I will help you, come get us.
Oh my god.
And I think big themes of the book is like the roles on like science and intellectualism in society, because like there's a big conversation in the book at one point where these people are discussing, what maybe the colonialists did to natives in America. And one person is like, well, think about it, like the Aztecs, they had brutal human sacrifice, and I don't know, like I think the Europeans were more civilized than them. Can you imagine if they didn't come over and the Aztecs made a North and South America spanning civilization that was okay with sacrificing people? But then other people are arguing like, okay, well, the Europeans were more technologically advanced, but like, were they better people? Do you know some of the shit they did to them? And that's kind of like the conversation that's also going on with this alien species that at the end of the book you find out is coming to invade Earth. It's only 4 light years away, but they're going to be here in 450 years just because it takes that long. And that's the same idea. There is, it turns out, a very large global organization on Earth that in the modern day has been in communication with the aliens and is fully intent on helping them wipe out humanity just because they think we deserve it. And what's really interesting is that this organization is actually made up of like social elites and scientists and very smart people. And it turns out that the less educated and more just normal someone is, the less likely they are to be a part of that organization. And I don't know, it's just interesting to hear people from these different groups talk to each other. Like there's one scientist talking to, this police officer, and he's just like, how can you not care about like what's up there in the stars? And he's like, I just don't think about it that much. He's like, I'm just thinking about my family and my mortgage and stuff. And the scientist is like, how can you not think about this shit? And so it's just like interesting to see how those two perspectives clash throughout the book. So anyway, into the book, aliens are coming in 450 years. Everybody on the planet now knows it. And it's interesting to see reactions because there are some people who are like, okay, like everybody on Earth, we have to work together and stop them, right? And then there are some people who are like, okay, that's 450 years from now. What does that have to do with me? I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And it's really funny since I played Outer Wilds recently. The aliens live 4 light years away, but it's going to take them 450 years to get here because they're like, we can accelerate up to 1/10 the speed of light, but it takes us forever to do that. And by the time we reach that point, we have to start decelerating, which reminds me of Outer Wilds, where like if you're flying somewhere, you have to start decelerating exactly halfway through your trip, or else you're gonna crash.
How many times have I died in the sun?
So
right in there.
I'm just gonna tell you how book 2 starts. I've never been more excited to get further in a book.
Oh man.
So here's what happens in the prologue of book 2. One of the people from the organization who's in contact with the aliens and is helping them discovers that they can't lie. It turns out that they had been going over just a bunch of like information and literature about Earth, and they are like, we are just so fucking confused. We don't get it. Like, information seems inconsistent. People will say stuff that obviously isn't true, and he ends up finding out they can't lie because for us, we have you have your brain, which is your thinking organ, and then you can talk with your mouth, something totally separate. They're the organ that does their thinking and the organ that does their talking are the exact same thing. They don't make sound, they basically like emit light. And any thoughts they have are broadcasted to just anyone who can see them. And so culturally, they just don't have a concept of deception. And
oh man,
like eventually they developed like, you know, internet long distance communication, and they're like, in a sense, like their civilization was able to kind of realize you can say stuff that isn't entirely factual through those means, but still just like culturally and their society, there just isn't a concept of lying and plotting and scheming and deception, and they can't make sense of stuff that's going on
That's
Earth.
like almost impossible to understand, that almost unbelievably like that a intelligent life form wouldn't be able to figure out deception. My brain can't even process that. So,
and it's funny because like whenever their human liaison was talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, no, well, we know about your brain and your talking organ being separate things, and we just assumed that was just y'all being unevolved. And he's like, no, you are wrong. We have a huge advantage over you. This is terrible.
That's so interesting though. That's like, this is terrible. You guys can't kill us all now. Fuck. That's so
exactly.
weird. That is so weird.
Now, here's the advantage the aliens have. In book 1, they sent something called a Sophon to Earth. Their ship can't get there for 450 years because it's giant. It takes a long time to accelerate. But they're like, if we just sent one little particle like a proton or something, I mean, we could get that to Earth in 4 years because we can send that at the speed of light. And essentially what they did is they they like unfolded this proton into like lower dimensions, and they built a computer inside of it and sent it to Earth. And that is the thing that is responsible for fucking with scientists and messing up scientific experiments. It's zooming all over the world at the speed of light and messing shit up and putting images in people's eyes and shit like that. But even worse, they can basically spy on the entire Earth at once. Every conversation had by everybody, everything on every hard drive, everything written on every piece of paper can be observed by this Sophon thing, and they are constantly sending more to Earth. And so there's a military room, and they're like, fuck, like, what do we do? Like, any move we take, they're just gonna know. And so this is the other thing that was in book 1. This is the other element at the beginning of book 2, aside from the lying thing, that made me go, holy shit, this is gonna be awesome. Their plan for combating the aliens is something called the Wall Facer Project. And they're like, if we just can't hide anything, we can't speak, we can't hide stuff on hard drives, we can't write, we can't do sign language, we can't talk using flags, any communication we have, they're going to know our plan. They can't read minds though. So they select a few people, and they're like, you are going to be the Wall Facers. You are going to come up with a plan, and it is never going to leave your brain. We're going to give you some resources from the government and the military, and any request you make, no matter how preposterous, unintuitive, ridiculous it is to everyone else on Earth, we're just going to trust you and just let you do it. And at this point they've like freshly developed hibernation technology, so you could sleep and wake up 70 years in the future. Like, we're going to give you access to this technology so you can implement those plans on a 450-year time span. And holy shit, it's really interesting.
Okay, so like the wall facers are a select group of people who will come up with a plan and enact it on their own without telling anyone what the plan is, and people are just gonna follow the plan.
That's the thing. Like, people are like, we can't reasonably make any plan to combat these aliens. So you people are going to make the plans, and you're never going to tell anyone what they are. You're going to give orders, and we're just going to follow them, even if they don't make sense to us.
This is such a completely different experience from the other 2 or 3 times you talked about this book, where you were so like down and mixed on it. Where like I was like, oh, okay, like you.
Now, I will say
this just seems so much more interesting when you put like a enthusiastic spin on it. That sounds fascinating.
The stuff I didn't like, I still don't like. I feel like he is not very good at writing characters, which, I mean, in a book that's going to be taking place over such a long time span, maybe that makes sense because some characters are just going to come and go. But I don't know. I think I walked away from my first time reading the first book like these are the most just golden platinum ideas anyone's ever had. I just wish a different writer was writing them. But I don't know. It's amazing book, amazing concepts. I still think, I don't know. His character writing could use some work.
Now, Bradley, I need you to do something for me.
Okay.
And you're very resistant of doing things for us, but you need to hear me out. You need to check out the Netflix adaptation and let me know if that's any good. Oh, okay, cool.
I got like 3 episodes into it.
It's cheeks.
And it's pretty cheeks. I will say,
but so's the book.
There's a police officer character, and when I was reading the book, I pictured him as this actor, and that's literally the actor they had. And I was like,
that's pretty
awesome.
Now, what if it gets good? Because they said they're adapting 2 more seasons of the show, so I'm guessing they're going to do book 2. I don't know if there's a book 3.
Yeah, and it might. I mean,
there's book 3.
What if season 1 ends and like it gets there? You know, like, because I think when you're adapting something, they're probably trying to make actual characters out of a story that has poor characters.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
And adapting that first book, right? Sorry, that like the book that is mostly set up and like hard to like appreciate. I feel like they would have to change that a lot, and maybe in book 2 and 3 they're gonna adapt it more, by the book. But that would be my guess.
And I haven't totally given up on the Netflix series. It was just some parts were okay, some parts were bad. One thing that was interesting is they took the main character, who was the closest thing the book had to like an actual character that had writing.
Wow.
And they don't have him anymore, but they split him up into several different characters who are each doing like a subset of his plot line. So I don't know, it's interesting.
That's very, very interesting change. Very different, but okay, cool. Well, I hope this lives up to the hype because you're hyping it up, and you've gotten me interested. The audiobook is short, right?
It's 8 hours to 10.
I think listening to it at 1.5 speed, it was like 8 hours.
Okay.
So it was really, I don't know. I felt like I had, the first time through, I felt like, oh, these are probably, I just got to take my licks to get to the second book. The second time, I feel like I really liked the first book a lot more the second time around because I was a lot more conscious of the themes and, which character is actually going to be important later because they might not get mentioned for 4 straight hours or something.
It's the kind of scenario that you spoiling it and like putting a structure to it would probably make it better for a first time experience, to be honest.
I think it did, honestly, and I think it would for anyone listening. But book 2, this book is legitimately one of the things I have seen people hype on the internet. Like, it is the best king of sci-fi. It blows your fucking mind to the point where you're worried to try it because you're like, there's no way it's going to be that good. So far, it's that good. I haven't finished it, but it's impressive.
Well, the jury's out, and we will see. All right, I think that closes it for us today.
I think so.
We almost got under 3 hours. Man, this one's going to be a mess to edit.
We also had some technical issues.
Boy,
I think they're like,
fucking did we? And I'm going to.
Yeah.
The first 40 minutes of this podcast are going to be a mess, and then everything else is also going to be a mess because I couldn't fully fix the issue. So, great. All right, but we did it, and if you're listening to this, I am so sorry. Anyways, bye.
Bye.
And after many, many technical difficulties, we're finally recording. It is about that time. I was excited for this because I've been wanting to catch up with my boys for a little bit. It's been a busy, busy time, I think, for everybody. Yeah, Joe's doing schoolwork and stuff. Joe, why don't you get us started on the smaller scale things you've been up to?
Yeah, so first off, the newest Total War Warhammer DLC dropped. Feast of Decay, Thrones of Decay. So the previous DLC before this one, like, was wildly criticized, like, to the point where, like, it just tanked, like, every iteration of Total Warhammer, like, down to the most negatives.
And remind me, in a yes or no, you don't need to go into it, was it justified in your opinion? I remember it being sort of, right? Sort of justified this time?
It was justified.
Okay.
They were essentially they were asking us to pay double the price of that DLC, and we will get later, and whoever buys it later, and have changed their, like, their development structure. So they pushed a lot of their products back. This also comes off the coattails of Creative Assembly's Hyenas getting fucking thrown in a dumpster. I don't know if y'all know about this, but they were making a team hero shooter game. This game was really pushed by Sega, and then they canceled it 6 weeks before it launched.
What? So, I didn't hear about that at all. That's
you should look it up.
That's crazy.
Crazy. The open beta had 100 players in it.
Ooh. That's sad. From a big company like that, that's insane.
Yeah. So, but like Thrones of Decay came out, it's gotten glowing reviews. It's exactly what I expect from the company when it comes to their DLC. The 3 characters they have in it are been fucking phenomenal. I haven't been able to play it nearly as much because of my living situation currently, but when I do, I have a great time. Lots of great units, lots of like great diversity, lots of great revamps too to very old factions and newer factions. So it's just overall very good. But yeah, I'm excited to see what their next DLC coming up is, and people have leaked it, what should be quote code, and people are not happy about it. I'm in the camp of like, this is a bunch of bullshit leaks that are being thrown out there to find it, because it's like, it's just stuff that like doesn't make sense in their roadmap that they gave us like months ago, essentially. But yeah, Those of the Cade's been really good. Really been enjoying it. X-Men 97.
Wrapped up, right?
Wrapped up. Great show.
They already have a season 2 coming, right?
They already have like written season 2, and they're getting people in the voice acting booths already. So they're going through. I highly recommend it to everyone. I've actually rewatched it now, and I don't usually do that for these types of shows. But it's phenomenal. I really like the show. I think the ending is really good. There are some parts where I'm like, this seems a little bit kind of hand wavy, just as a bit, but I'm really excited for season 2 and the characters that be introduced there. So highly recommend it as well. Always. I realized what my quickie topic was going to be. Game Changer just started its finale this week. This season has been one of the best seasons, like, I think, of the entire show. Phenomenal. Great. Yeah, so doing the circle, they call it Ratfish as their game. But it's really funny because basically before they went to their rooms, they were just told, like, make up a character, and then we're going to make a profile for that character when the game starts. So they all, like, made promos and everything for their characters. And there are some wild characters in there.
You also watched Suits, didn't you?
Suits is a show about college dropout, weirdly enough, dropout Mike Ross, who has photographic memory, and basically in his years post his like being kicked out of college, he takes the LSAT for people and passes the bar for them for like thousands of dollars.
Wild.
He eventually,
Hot take, saying it's about Mike Ross specifically is also like, I would say, light. That's like saying How I Met Your Mother is all about Ted.
It is light, but that's the starting premise of the show.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, but eventually he gets found by hotshot lawyer Harvey Specter, newly appointed senior. God, Harvey's so fucking funny because he is quite literally Lionel Hutz and Saul Goodman shoved together in one body. It's so fucking funny. So and like he'll just say some shit and stare out his office window dramatically, and everyone's like, "What the fuck are you on about?"
That's good. It's a good gimmick.
Yeah, but that being said, I do like both of the characters. Harvey is very much a hotshot guy, but he really does care about like Mike and like making sure he learns. Like he will take like blows for him and like go to bat for him like all the time. When it comes to like making sure like, hey, I know Mike messed up, I'm gonna fix it, don't worry about it, and like really comes around. So I really like him. Season 1, really good way of like just introducing the characters and really kind of establishing the dynamics of characters within the law firm. Season 2, I really liked. Like, it's about like the old partner, one of the original founders of the firm, coming back after he was like ousted by Harvey and Jennifer. I think that's her name. Jennifer, who basically like kicked him out. The other partner kicked him out and take over the firm. And so he comes back, and now it's like a back and forth between them. And the way that they set him up as like a very toxic like boss and like friend is really, really good.
He is a wild character.
He is.
Both like just the entire way that like the actor does that character.
Yeah.
And his like suits, literally, no pun intended. Just he is literally wild card the character.
Wow,
the shit that guy does is crazy. I'm on season 3 right now. I'm about halfway through it. It's not vibing with me nearly as much. I think because like we've removed like that central antagonistic character away from it. But Harvey Specter has definitely started trending down this dark road. Donna, it's not Donna Noble. That's the Hunter character. But Donna, his assistant, is very Willard Core, I think. But Meghan Markle is also in it, and I made this comment of like, oh, I understand why Meghan Markle was able to marry a prince, because she's very charming, very pretty in the show. Her character doesn't get a lot to do, unfortunately, but she's able to do what she can. Suits is good. It's fun. It's a nice show to throw on Netflix.
Okay, I watched some trash, and then some peak, and then a movie.
Oh, hell
yeah. I went through. I watched like the most recent season of The Circle, but I think I talked about that last time. Very, very one of the better seasons of a very trashy show, which led me down a unfortunate spiral where I then watched The Mole. Now The Mole is an old show, but there's a Netflix reboot that's actually getting a second season like next month, so I got in right on time, I guess. And the idea of The Mole is there's a bunch of people competing, they do challenges, they win money from the challenges, but one of the players throughout the entire journey is a mole that is subtly trying to sabotage the challenges. So it's fun because of that. Yeah, it's like a long-term hidden role game over a couple of episodes. I will say The Mole, I don't know if you've watched this Netflix season, Joe, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I won't say much then, just in case one day you want to, because you watched the old ones. I thought it was very fun, and the Mole was an interesting pick. Their confessionals are very funny in hindsight, and like very goofy, and I'll just say that. Good show. This led me through a deeper rabbit hole where this is the trashiest show I've talked about probably on this podcast. I watched Perfect Match. This is peak awful reality television, but
oh, I thought Perfect Match was going to be about people, like a documentary about a boxing match or something.
No, I wish. No, that would be classy. No, there's nothing classy about this. This is like the Smash Brothers of Netflix reality shows.
I love that description.
So it takes all the characters, because they basically are from all these different shows. It had the winner from The Mole that I just finished watching, as well as like another person from The Mole. a bunch of people from the Circle seasons I've watched, and then people from Love is Blind, Too Hot to Handle, and some like the shows I haven't watched, and I'm thankfully like not that deep in the muck yet, but I sure got to know them from this show, and there is just no depth. Like there's nothing here. It's so shallow. The idea is there's always an imbalance of guys and girls every week of the show, and you have to match up with someone and go to bed with them, and that's how you move on to the next night. So you have to like keep a consistent relationship or switch up on people, but then like the next night like you'll have less guys than girls, so like now the guys have to like make sure. Not a bad setup.
That's the premise of Love Island.
Oh really? Okay, yeah, so it's just Love Island then. I guess the other gimmick is if you win a challenge, which like if the goal, quote unquote, is to find your perfect match, then then you're doing challenges. You would think it would be a lot of compatibility challenges, and like a third of them are, and then the remaining 2/3 are bad Survivor challenges, which have nothing to do with anything. And if you win that, your couple gets to go to the boardroom and select the next like 2 males or 2 females to come into the house, and like you can be strategic where it's like that's like the fun thing where it's like, ooh, let's bring him in because he's gonna ruin that couple, or let's bring him in because I want her to find her true match and I could see the matching, etc., etc. In its own way, it has to be entertaining. That's what I will say about Perfect Match, is that it's trashy, but it is entertaining, and at least like 4 of those people seem like genuinely good idiots. Like they're all stupid as shit and all attention seekers, but like 4 or 5 of those solid attention seekers. I like them, but like a couple of them are too good for the show, and like that's the best you could ask for a show like this. None of the couples lasted, by the way. Aside from that, I watched Survivor, which is fucking peak. Survivor's so good! I haven't watched it in a while. And, like, what's funny is I was like, where did I leave off? And I started watching a season. I was like, okay, I think I didn't watch this one. And then, like, as I'm getting close to the end, I'm like, did I watch this? So I went back to the last time I talked about Survivor on the podcast. And, like, on the last episode, I'm like, oh, shit, I watched this season before because I talked about it last time. But then I watched, like I said, I skipped a season last time. I watched that one. I just finished it, like, a night or 2 ago. That was great, actually. It was like everyone comes in a pair of, like, them and a family member or a loved one, and then they get split up, and, like, it adds interesting dynamics. And now I'm finally caught up to, like, where I stopped last time, which was season 33, and now I'm watching 34, which is a season where every single returning player is like a returning player. So I recognize like half of them at this point because I've watched over 12 seasons of Survivor.
Watched every episode the day it comes out since the show started.
Bradley, you're
last time.
They fucking love.
They have good taste, bro. You gotta get in on this. It's so good. Like, genuinely, some of the most jaw-dropping storytelling I've ever seen. It's very good.
It's like
Peak. So yeah, I'm watching season 34. I've been watching all these trash shows because I've been working on personal projects, secret projects that Bradley knows about, and they're very nice to have on the background and not think about it. To go off of that, I've started The Bear, which friends, family members, everyone in my life has held knives to my throat because they're like, hey, this show's for you. I'm like, I know, I just need time. But it's just not the right fit for like that kind of activity. I watched the movie called The Killer. This is a movie with Michael Fassbender. It's on, I think it's like a Netflix movie. It's a David Fincher movie, who's a very popular director. I've come to realize I don't like his stuff very much. I like Gone Girl. And I don't know what else, some of the other stuff he's worked on. I think Gone Girl's great, but I don't like Mindhunter, which is like the Netflix show he worked on that everyone loves. Yeah. Anyways, The Killer, kind of mid. Actually, not even mid. Leaning on didn't like. Very uninteresting protagonist, and it's like, yeah, that's the point. He's very robotic and uninteresting. I'm like, yep, that's the point, and it didn't work. It just is what it is, and like it's hard to have sympathy for him, and the story is like not very interestingly plotted, not really worth spending too much time on. And then Recently, as of like last month, this is last month's podcast, Microsoft and Sony had just been doing wild shit. I just wanted to bring that up as like, we'll start with Sony because like, you know, Sony's always up to some nonsense. I think the main thing is the Helldivers situation that went down. It's just interesting. What are y'all's takes on that? Or like, the big breakdown is this happens with other things, but like the Sony storefront cannot operate in certain countries, and because of that, certain countries just don't have PSN and they can't buy Helldivers anymore. You can make an account elsewhere, like there's a lot of countries that have to do that with a lot of games to begin with, but it does kind of suck for people. Like the real bad thing was like people who already had accounts were about to like not be able to play, period. And that got rolled back, but you still can't make a Sony account in those countries, so you're still like locked. No, that did get rolled back.
Nope. In all those countries that you can't make PSN accounts, you can no longer play.
You can't purchase it. If you still have it, purchase it.
That's what I said. You can still play. Yeah. So it got rolled back, and then they also had a state of play that like everyone was like, oh, there was no games. It's like actually there was. I thought there was a ton of games. It's that they led with a 5-minute lore video of a fucking 5v5 hero shooter, and that's like the worst thing they showed, and it's how they led it off.
Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on just to announce Overwatch, but this time
I saw it and I was just like, oh, this will be cool. It's probably like I'm down for like a weird like single player game with a bunch of dudes or weirdos,
and then they're like, I think Concord is a 5v5 hero shooter, and everyone disliked that. I mean, they showed Marvel in the same thing. It's like that, like that's the winner.
Marvel's also gonna be free.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I briefly tried out Marvel Rivals. Felt fucking great, and there's just some genuinely cool mechanics in there.
Anyways, that looks cool. But that's most of like the Sony shit for now. We'll see. Like there was some cool stuff in that direct. Like everyone's like, where's the gameplay games? Like, did y'all not see Path of Exile? That looked like the most video game of all fucking time. Yeah, Monster Hunter. Well, we gotta move on. Microsoft closed down a bunch of fucking studios. That's their thing. They're just not even trying anymore. What the hell?
It's over. It's over. Microsoft or the game studios that got shut down?
Microsoft is not trying because those game studios were trying. In fact, they made the one good Microsoft game ever and then got closed down. What the fuck? Bro, I can't believe like I'm not gonna get a Hi-Fi Rush 2 ever. Like that game came out hyper successful, a huge buzz, everyone loved it, critically acclaimed. Doesn't matter.
In their own words, exceeded expectations.
Oh my god, dude. What the fuck are they thinking?
In 10 years, it'll come back with a reboot and a CGI trailer of everyone in like high fidelity graphics.
And it's a 5v5 hero shooter. Because they're gonna be trying to beat Overwatch 3 at that point.
So it's like Arcane Austin, okay, they've had like 2 major flops in a row, I understand. There was another one that
flops that Microsoft didn't give them the resources to save. Like, yeah, like let's not put this too much on the studio, because like Microsoft has infinity money. You think they could support their studios a little bit better?
Yeah, that was the thing. Like we had like a whole discussion about this in our Discord with friends, and we were trying to like. One of our friends was just like, I don't understand what the big deal is about like Microsoft like getting on the industry like this. And it's like I had to explain that like this company spent $70 billion and acquired 2 studios, like acquire like a publishing company, and that $70 billion would have gone to other things. In addition, that's one less big fish that's there to potentially like that's another big fish that like is not there handing out cash to AA studios to publish things. And it's just like really frustrating, especially with the Tailworks thing. Like that's the one that doesn't make any sense. Video, yeah, I watched Skill's follow-up video, and he mentioned like there was like a press conference they were doing with some news media outlet. It was like the head of Microsoft Game Studios, and she's talking about like she's like floundering with like the closure. Oh,
Yeah.
you know, it's been rough. Like,
Yeah, and then the camera zooms out, and you see line go up the graph.
like it's like 2019 very low, 2020, 2021, 2023 literal skyscrapers compared to the fucking draft.
It's just not good enough.
Yeah, it's just,
And then, since we're in industry news, Square Enix goes on to say that like all their games are fucking failures, and they're gonna work more on live service stuff even more. And it's like, it's like you guys like just put infinity money into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's like I think their expectations for everything like 16 sold millions of copies, not good enough. Rebirth sold millions of copies, not good enough. It's like nothing. These the heads of these studios just want to see the line go up, and it's just not feasible while they're making these AAA titles to work like that.
we're getting to a breaking point.
Oh yeah, this is a big collapse of the industry coming through, and it's going to have repercussions on maybe all of us in some way or another, so we'll see how that goes. The last thing I'll bring up quickly is that my city has been hit with awful storms, and my internet has been bad since, and I had to go without light, and it's just first world problems, but they kind of suck. But anyways, Bradley, why don't I pass the baton on to you?
Why don't you? First off, I'm building a Lego set while we're talking, and
Ooh.
there's an individually wrapped Harry Potter character in my lake house. So.
Oh, in your lake house set, there's a Harry Potter? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
individually wrapped Harry Potter dude. So that's weird. But anyway, what I've been doing, Dungeon Crawler Carl, book 2 down, which is interesting. It's really cool because I remember Tyler was saying, like, you know, book 1, so it's alright, book 2, he really hits his stride. And I remember finishing book 1 and I was like, I already thought this was pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
Book 2 really is like, this dude can write. Like, there was one portion in the book, I had to message Tyler when I read it, and I was like, this hurt my soul, bro. So very good. Excited for book 3. Kingdom Hearts 3, kind of an ongoing catch-up. I finally beat all but the most secret and final of all of the secret and final bosses. To hype myself up for Kingdom Hearts 4 news. That's never gonna.
Yep.
So what else we got? I do have some other stuff. Our household has still been going hard on Spelunky 2, which the skills are growing. We're able to get to some secret places pretty consistently.
What's our average run ending at?
Well, our average run is ending on like around like, you know, we can get to like 5 or 6 if we're really trying. But oh my god, I had my soul ripped out because eventually I'm gonna want to do all the secret endings, right? And so Emmy was looking on the wiki just to see like, cause she's okay with being spoiled, but I don't like being spoiled, so she's like, I'm just gonna see like roughly what we're gonna have to do. Like what item are we gonna have to get in World 1 or 2 that we're gonna do. And she ended up approaching me, she's like, Bradley, look, man, I know, she's like, I know you don't like spoilers, but if you want to try to get all the endings one day, you have a right to know this information. And she's like, one of the worlds, you have to beat 99 levels in a row, and my knees gave out.
What? Even I didn't know that.
Now I was. Oh my god.
God, I can't carry this boulder anymore.
So we're
just like, honey, I know this is important.
You deserve to know this.
So maybe in like a few hundred hours of gameplay, we might get close. I don't know.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that Spelunky 2. Holy shit.
Oh my god. Oh, they cooked so hard.
Last thing I got going on is, I can't remember if I mentioned this last time because I can't remember if I had started it yet. I'm taking a class, a bookbinding class.
I believe so.
Because over the past like year and a half, I've been doing like a lot of self-taught bookbinding stuff, and I kind of reached the limits on what I can learn at home because there's some stuff that you just can't learn over the internet, and some stuff requires equipment that costs literally thousands of dollars. But there's the local like bookbinding guild here in Austin, and
the guild.
I signed up for a class that I've been doing for the past like 5 weeks or so, and oh my god, I'm learning like the big boy shit.
So you make any cool little projects yet, or are you still like in the learning phase? And they're like, we'll let you bind when you're ready, and you're like, Sensei, but I am ready, but you're not.
Well, it's kind of funny because technically I'm taking their bookbinding 2 course, and
Ooh.
you have to take their bookbinding 1 course. But I showed some of the books I'd already made to the lady. She's like, I'm gonna be real.
He just put out a bookbinding.
Wow. Our boy is so talented. I hope he makes it into GT bookbinding.
Oh my god. But in this class, I'm learning how little I really knew. Holy shit.
bookbinding.
That's awesome.
What's cool though is for the first time I'm working with real leather and not like cheap, thin, fake.
Ooh, can you...
You would have to go and like kill a deer and skin it 40 times to get the
Yeah,
leather
that was me too. We had to camo up.
to buy thousands of dollars of equipment to do it.
True.
Dude, that's the thing. Here's how I usually describe it. There are some hobbies that, you know, they're really cheap to get into, but might take a lot of like time and practice and effort to get good at it. And then there's hobbies that might not be that difficult, but they take a shitload of money because you just have to buy all the materials. Bookbinding is both. You're gonna spend hundreds of dollars, and the first few books you make aren't even gonna fucking look like books. I'm done.
Nice. Go for it, Tyler.
Dude, speaking of hobbies, I finally went undefeated at a One Piece.
A very big achievement.
It is.
And like rogue decks that I always play, which was really cool.
Yeah, hold on. Let me hype Tyler up real quick. First of all, the Texas scene for the One Piece card game is fucking real. There's no like easy locals here. There's always killers everywhere. And Tyler did it with like a tier 2, tier 3 deck. So very impressive.
I went yellow purple croc. Played against 2 red purple laws, an ace, and Katakuri.
Which is red purple law being the best deck in the format, so he beat 2 of them.
Really haven't got to play against Sakazuki or Moria with this deck yet. Like, it's been wild.
So Moria's people are jumping off Sakazuki because his time is limited. This is a leader that got banned in this game. Like, you cannot play that deck just because it was so dominant. And soon Red Purple Law will be next because holy shit.
But yeah, I was really happy about that. It was cool. Cool experience. Helped me learn a lot about the game too. Like about what like a undefeated night is like. And I'm like, yeah, I saw every card I needed at all times and knew how to play them.
Yeah.
Oh, like it's real. And then I went and played again. And I was like, oh, this was a bad night. I did not see the stuff I needed.
That is the curse of the tier 2 deck. It really, like, every deck has power spikes in this game, but the consistency is where the top tiers tend to lie. Got a low check.
I was bummed out though because I was like, oh yeah, like it's not really my fault. I didn't play that.
You know you can do it, and like you gotta get reps. Like you gotta see different board states and be able to like think your way out of it. And I think it's just from experience. So, anyways,
I've been on an anime block again. We got Slime season 3 running. It's pretty good. It's in its Log Horizon arc of just a lot of politics happening. Oh man, it's really bad because I think for like 4 episodes they were just sitting in boardrooms talking about politics and shit. Great anime, loving it, having a great time. Mushoku Tensei is going on, and they're back to their like the school arc is over finally.
which one is which one's Mushoku Tensei again?
That's the one
The
with...
food, delicious in dungeon.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh no.
No.
No. That's no. Sorry.
Joe,
Yeah.
you're interrupting me.
Sorry. This is with the child.
Yeah, Mushoku Tensei.
Oh no.
Shut-in. Who isekai.
Yeah, he's a baby, and he's like, "Oh, I get to drink milkies."
I was thinking Musudeshi.
It's so like, oh man, I don't know. It's this certain genre that I don't know the name of, but like our friend told me the name, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't really like that genre, but this one's really good because like when you get past that, even though he's some like old guy who has like his memories, he's like doesn't know what life is, you know, because he was a shut-in and like didn't do anything with his life, so it's like he never had a life. So now he's actually having one, and there's so many episodes I go through watching it where like he doesn't reference anything about his old life. or even mention it. Like, it's only talking about the new one that I forget that it's a...
That's standard, though, right? Like, for a majority of isekais, they kind of leave their old lives behind because it's all about the relatable protag.
Like, very hardcore, just, like, lives in his parents' house at 40 years old and never leaves.
Yeah, like, he has a story about why he's a shut-in, too. Like, he had the shit beaten out of him and chained to the front of his school, and, like, they took pictures of him naked, like, chained to the front of the school and, like, posted it all over.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, like, he has a legit, and this was, like, when he was, like, 14 or 15, so he just became a shut-in for 20 years. So he didn't ever have, like, an old life. So when he starts his new one, he's, like, perverted and very young and immature, like you would expect a shut-in to be. He's like, oh, yeah, I used to, like, fap it to the hentai. But then, as he, like, grows up into teenagehood, it really, like, evolves the character growth, both, like, internally as his weird self and, like, externally. So I, like, because he no longer becomes part of, like, his old life. Like, this is his new life. And there is a great part juxtaposition to that where he meets another person who got isekai who's, like, manic. And, like, it's like, no, I'm devoting all of my time to try and go back to the old world. I hate everything here. This is not who I am. This is not
it's
real.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Yeah, Bradley, it is. For the real Degens, it's going well. They're back to adventuring, which is the parts that I like. No more character growth. This is all world growth. I'm enjoying it. I play.
And that's where we left off. If you made it this far, once again, sorry about that. There's a lot of good stuff that we talked about after this point, which is now before this point because time is meaningless. So yeah, it was a fun episode to do, but man, when I realized that got me so stressed out for the rest of the episode, and thankfully we had good conversations and that settled that, and I tried my best to polish this turd, but it is a turd at the end of the day. On a side note, we forgot to talk about Furiosa this episode. I can't speak for Joe. He watched it. For me, solid movie. I like Mad Max Fury Road way better. It's just Furiosa's plot was like a little meandering. But you know, very cool effects, very cool choreography, some very poignant moments, some very cool sequences. There's a little bonus for you so we don't end off on a complete dour note. Alright, I'll catch y'all next time. Actually, tomorrow we're planning on reading some more JoJo, the group read that we've been doing. It's been a couple months, and we stocked up some chapters, and we're all kind of missing Jodio and the gang. So if you're into the JoJo stuff, that came out either before or right after this video. So yeah, there's a little bonus. Bye.